school board meeting for November 16th, 2017 to order. We do not have anything to report out of closed session. John, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I think we want to, Richard, would you like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
Yes, I move we approve tonight's agenda with two particular changes, please. One would be to add a superintendent's report to immediately follow after the consent agenda before our first discussion items. And my motion also includes a reordering of the discussion items to put item B5B update on superintendent direction on activities related to Malibu reputation before the reporting out on the California dashboard.
And I just want to add to that we need to pull item 4C6 on the consent calendar. We'll come back. Staff initiated pulling. So with that motion, is there a second to that? Seconded by Craig. All those in favor? So, first thing first thing we need to do is approve the October 30th, 2017 minutes. Any changes? Moved by John to approve the October 30th minutes, seconded by Richard. All those in favor? That passes unanimously. Then we have one other set of minutes, which is the November 2nd minutes. Moved by Craig, approved and seconded by Maria. All those in favor? That passes unanimously. So that takes us to the superintendent's report. I'm sorry, you want it after consent calendar. Sorry. Alright, let's see how many times I can make a mess of this tonight. Move consent calendar. Moved by Richard and seconded by Craig. All those in favor? That passes unanimously. Now, if there are any superintendent's report.
Thank you. You know, in the prior board meeting, you approved through consent the new assistant superintendent for business and fiscal services. And customarily, we would introduce the person in front of the community, in front of you, and then they give a speech. We weren't able to do that because Mrs. Melody Candy was not here, able to come. She is here today, the first board meeting, and I would like to continue with that protocol we normally have. So I'll kind of read a little bit about Mrs. Melody for the community, and then she'll say a few words. So Ms. Melody Kennedy comes to SMMUSD from the Pajaro Unified School District in Watsonville, California, where she served as Chief Business Official since 2015. The Pajaro USD serves more than 20,000 students in a TK-12 school plus 9 alternative and charter schools with a $242 million budget. The district has 2,300 employees. Prior to Pajaro, she served as the Assistant Superintendent, Chief Business Official for the Greenfield Union School District in Greenfield, California from 2007 to 2015. Ms. Kennedy brings nearly 20 years of education experience in not only business services, but also human resources and labor relations. She has previously worked for the Orinda Union School District, Fresno Unified School District, and Clovis Unified School District, my previous areas. Responsibilities in her current position include coordinating and developing the district's annual operating budget, monitoring all school site, departmental, and project budgets to ensure state and federal and district guideline compliance, providing and preparing analysis and interpretation of current and long-term financial issues for the superintendent and board of trustees, directing the departments of business and fiscal services, facilities, maintenance and operations, food services, transportation, and technology, administering planning and directing construction, modernization, repair, and remodeling of facilities, development, and implementation. Mrs. Kennedy earned a Bachelor of Science Business Administration and Human Resource option from Fresno State University. Go Bulldogs. No, I have to plug that in. At least I got somebody in here. I'm tired of hearing all these USC and UCLA folks around here. I would bark, but I don't think that'll be proper etiquette here. We're Bulldog born, though. She also earned a master's degree in education with a concentration in supervision and administration from Fresno State. She has a Chief Business Official certification from the California Association of School Business Officials. Ms. Kennedy is a member of the Association of California School Administrators and the California Association of School Board Officials. She replaces Jan Mays, who retired in June. Ms. Kennedy will be a valuable addition to our district leadership team. We would like to congratulate her on her new position.
With everybody. Oh, there we go. Now you can all hear me. I look forward to actually meeting all of the departments that I actually will be overseeing, and I got to meet a few folks already in the back for transportation. So I will be going out to all the sites and looking and trying to understand what it is that they might need extra help with or what have you. We'll be hitting the ground running on the budget the next time I actually see you. And so I just want to say thank you so much for the warm welcome, and I look forward to a long life with you.
Wonderful. Welcome from all of us.
Thank you. And also, the Board of Education asked me to write a letter to the City of Santa Monica at our October 19th board meeting regarding our support of constructing a field on the Civic Center, of the city's construction of the field in the Civic Center site. This field is in addition to the planned SMC Early Childhood Lab School and City Services building behind City Hall that has been approved by the Coastal Commission. We expect to provide the city with this letter of support by next week. This letter will clearly state that the district's support of a sports field on this property that can be utilized by Samo High and other SMM and USD students. We are looking forward to working with our city partners on this plan and value the city's efforts to increase field space for our students and the community. And then lastly, there's been a lot of information in the news lately. I think it's important for me to address regarding the conflicts of interest in the news. So I have a prepared statement. I just want to read it out loud so that way the public understands what the actions are from my office regarding what's here and out there. The district and our Board of Education recognize the importance of avoiding conflicts of interest. This is reflected by the fact that the board has an adopted bylaw stressing the importance of making decisions free from conflicts. At this time, we are in the process of gathering information and facts related to the board's votes and working with legal counsel. We will fully cooperate with any external investigation regarding this matter. We have begun a review of our practices and process regarding hiring of consultants, and contractors. As we develop the full scope of our review, we will be sharing it with the board. We will follow up not only with the board and staff, but with our community with the outcomes of our review process. We will also be planning training and educational sessions with the board regarding conflicts of interest and related matters to ensure that the board is aware and observe best practices in these areas. So that's the end of the superintendent's report.
Thank you. So I guess without further ado, let's move to discussion item 5B, which is our update on the October 30th, 2017 board direction to the superintendent on activities related to Malibu unification.
Yes, at a previous board meeting, you directed me to meet with citizens groups in the city of Malibu. And so we identified a couple of council, or the city arranged for me to meet with a couple of city council members. And also let me state this properly here. The Malibu Schools Leadership Council, which was about roughly 20 representatives from different groups. I first met with the city council and then subsequently met with MSLC. In meeting with both groups, I thought I want to appreciate the meeting I had with those groups. They were very cordial and contained their passions in a way in which the communication was. I was able to receive it very, very well and able to understand what the concerns are. In there, if you recall, you requested that I see if the both groups or groups in Malibu had an appetite for an option A, which is basically a reorganization of district operations to provide more of a local, more of a leadership presence there and more local control. And I did articulate that vision, and both committees essentially said they were not interested. Some did state that they see an interest in that as a stopgap to another option that we will consider, which is option B, some kind of shared revenue that we will have to flush out. So that was essentially what was reported to me. They did state that they would like, at least within this academic year, to have some kind of decision from the school board, and some wanted a decision on the month report as is, at least by December. So that's the conclusion of it.
Great. Okay, any clarifying questions? No. Okay, so then we're going to take public comment and then we're going to discuss what to do next, or how to, I think, further direct our superintendent to continue on the path we already discussed at the last meeting.
Good evening. The Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District Board of Education welcomes and values public comments. And we particularly appreciate all of our fellow community members who have joined us here tonight for this particular agenda item. We also are very grateful for the many written communications we've received also on this item. Tonight we have over 25 speakers on this measure, on this item, Madam President. Our rules say that we could bring this down to 1 minute. However, we aren't doing that. We're recommending 2 minutes per speaker, as this is a continuation from an earlier meeting on the 30th of October. If that's okay, 2 minutes.
Everybody okay with that, 2 minutes?
So I'll read the names of the persons in threes, please, and if folks could line up. And again, I always ask your forgiveness if I mispronounce your name. Our first speaker is the Honorable Member of the Malibu City Council, Mr. Jefferson Wagner, followed by the Honorable Mayor Pro Tem from the City of Santa Monica's City Council, the Honorable Dwayne Davis, and following then Moses Olgagui. I'm sure you'll help me when you come to the podium, please. Welcome, Member Wagner.
Thank you, board members, and thank you for your time and your terrific efforts on the behalf of all our children and the educational status of both our communities. The letter I'm about to read into the board's review, I don't see a TV here, but you've all received it, and it's available to the public online through the City of Malibu's website. I have chosen to stay within the 2 minutes parameter that you've provided to me. Thank you. I'm going to reduce it to several paragraphs that I feel that pertain to the monk and the work that we had done in the past and where we hope to go with this in the future.
Mr. Wagner, forgive me for interrupting. I think we will afford you the opportunity to read the entire letter.
Okay, thank you, and thank you to the audience for your patience. It's 7 paragraphs. Thank you. So this is a letter from the city, and this is with the consent of the 5 city council members. We want to thank you for the opportunity to address the board on behalf of the Malibu community on this very important subject of separation into 2 separate school districts. We want to thank Superintendent Drati for meeting with Mayor Pro Tem Rick Mullen, City Manager Reva Feldman, and Councilmember Laura Rosenthal to discuss the board's decision following the presentation from the Malibu Unification Negotiations Committee, MUNC, and School Services of California, SSC. As the City Council appointed the School District Super Separation Ad Hoc Committee, we reported back to the Council at its regular meeting on November 13th, 2017, about the board's decision and proposed plans A and B in our discussions with Dr. Drati last week. We can inform you that the Council agreed by consensus with our conclusions that the City cannot accept Plan A. However, we look forward to your response back to us with a plan and process for Plan B. Since you have rejected the Monk report, despite the fact that both sides of the committee had agreed to the proposal and that it was fair and equitable for both communities, their respective new school districts would be successful, then the ball is back in your court, and we await the plan that you put together to separate our districts. This plan must be based on equal services for both school districts. Therefore, it must be on a cost basis. The Monk report did some preliminary work on this split, which would be approximately 80-20 for both sides to be financially viable, but that split must be based on cost, not revenue. For Malibu, this separation is a necessity so that the constituents of our district are able to elect the people that decide the educational process of their children. We see this as the only way for Malibu students to receive and to have a successful future and to receive the same services and facilities as their counterparts in Santa Monica. We will no longer be deprived and treated unequally due to the fact that we have no say in the decision-making process. This is about local control and autonomy as well as safety for our local school children. The financial arrangements must be based on costs of operation that Malibu schools will have equal services and equal support and not on equal revenue per child. As the process of fully developing Plan B is likely to take some time to complete, it is in our best interest to continue moving forward with seeking unification through city's petition to LAFCO or LACO. During that time, you are putting Plan B together, and before it can actually be implemented, the transition, Malibu is asking for the appointment of its own superintendent positioned to make the decisions for Malibu and our schools. In addition, during this time, we would appreciate having the appropriate full-time support staff, including maintenance and facilities oversight, to help bring Malibu schools up to the proportionate level and staff of Santa Monica schools. Lastly, during the transition time, we ask that any contemplated board issuances must get the support and permission from the Malibu representative at the board and from the Malibu City Council. Thank you very much. And you have these copies of the letters, and thank you for the extra moments.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Welcome, Ms. Davis.
Thank you. Good evening, President Lieberman, and to the entire school board. I feel like it's old home week for me here. First of all, let me make it clear I am here in my individual capacity. Nothing I say can be attributed to my colleagues on the council. They'll appreciate that understanding. I'm here for two reasons, and the first of which is that I know you've had a number of meetings on this issue, and I've received inquiries as to why members of the Santa Monica City Council have not attended the meetings. I can't speak for my colleagues, but I felt obliged to come and speak for myself. And the reason that we haven't engaged in these meetings is simply because we trust the board. I know each and every one of you personally, and I know that each and every one of you, when you took the oath that put you up on that dais, committed to looking out for the best interest of each and every student within the district, regardless of where he or she lived and regardless of what school he or she went to. And I know that you will use that as your guiding light as you set about making what I know are some very difficult decisions. I'm not here to propose any solutions. I wouldn't even begin to understand all the challenges you face. But I do want you to know that I, and I believe a significant portion of this community, support you and trust you to make the best decision that you can. I'm just here to tell you that whatever support I and others in the community can give you, we are here to do so. My second reason for coming tonight is that I have received several inquiries from people who know about my history regarding school assets and developing more resources for our school, and asked that if in fact there were some result that would lead to a deficit that the separated Santa Monica district would be facing, would there be a possibility of the city of Santa Monica filling whatever gap existed. I cannot, unfortunately, commit any future councils, the council I currently sit on or any future council, to fill that gap. And so I just wanted to make it clear that I think as you engage in these discussions, that you don't assume that there is money there that may well not be there. I just want to also say that I'm proud to be in a community where our city of Santa Monica contributes more than $2,000 for every student in the district. And I really want to acknowledge all the people in this room who've worked so hard to make that possible. And so again, I just want to leave you with the words that in a representative democracy, you guys get to make the tough calls, but that we trust you to do so, and that I certainly support you in whatever decision you make. Thank you.
Thank you. Oscar has a question, but before Oscar, yes, can I just let folks know the protocol we have, the conventions we've adopted here in the room is that we don't allow for applause after public speaking. But I see some of you know we can raise the roof or we do our hands in the air, American Sign Language for our applauding. We appreciate it if you will adhere to those conventions. Thank you.
Councilwoman Davis, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate your comments. I just had a question in terms of the city's reserve. Do you know what the amount of the city's reserve is right now?
I don't know the full amount of the city's reserve. I know that it is substantial enough that it has formed the basis of the city of Santa Monica maintaining a AAA bond rating with all the rating agencies, and that one of the challenges we face is that if we were to deplete that reserve in any significant way, the city of Santa Monica's bond rating would go down.
Yeah, no, I understand. The next question I have is in regards, you said that the city of Santa Monica provides about $2,000 per student.
I think it's actually over $2,000 per student, but I don't have the exact numbers here, so I don't want to overstate the case.
Is that amount related to the joint use agreement?
It's related to three different funding sources. One is the Facilities Master Use Agreement, or the Joint Use Agreement. One is related to measures Y and YY, and then I know we haven't made any payments, but there will be payments under GS and GSH. And it's my understanding that's well over, I think it's over $20 million on a per annum basis, which amounts to over $2,000 per student, regardless of where that student lives in the district. Yeah, okay, so So I had my numbers. My numbers are old, but I know it's well over $2,000 per student, regardless of what school that student attends.
When we say the city of Santa Monica provides that money, it's not just to make it clear. It was the voters of the city of Santa Monica that made that money available, not the city council that made that decision. Correct?
Well, no, actually, the city council did make that decision. So the facilities master use agreement, there was no vote behind that. That was a decision on the basis of the Santa Monica City Council on its own. Measures Y and YY and GSH were both general taxes that only required a 50% plus one level to pass. There were advisory measures in which the community was able to express its desire that 50% of the resources or the revenues from those taxes be dedicated to the school, but they were advisory only, and the city was under no obligation to follow that. Of course, we're not stupid, and we, certainly respect the advice that we got from the community, and I believe we all supported. It was a unanimous vote in both instances to devote 50% of the Y and YY revenues and 50% of the GS and GSH revenues to the school district. There was never any second thought given to that. But ultimately, that required a vote of the council. The voters were voting in an advisory capacity only.
Is it true, though, just because I don't want to minimize the impact of parents in our community and the residents, the joint use agreement came forward because residents threatened a charter amendment, and that's why the city council then made that decision to make sure that the money came forward to the school district?
Oh, that's right. There are many people in this room, as well as myself, who stood out on corners. We collected over 15,000 signatures in the city of Santa Monica to put a charter amendment on the next ballot, but the city council elected, instead of having the charter amendment proposal go to the ballot, to actually enter into the facilities master use agreement. And that I want to make it very clear that I'm not trying to minimize the work of anyone in the school communities. I guarantee you that neither Y and YY or GS and GSH would not have passed without the hard work of the people in the school community who financially and with their feet and shoe leather supported those measures. And also it was, of course, the Community for Excellent Public Schools, as well as other school groups, that put forth the charter amendment. So all of these were community efforts, and without them, I don't believe the city of Santa Monica would be in a position to do what it does.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you, Oscar. Thank you. Our next three speakers, first Moses will be coming forward, but then I'll announce the three after Moses. Christine Haves, Mr. Kevin Shankman, and Mr. Sam Paul Kaplan will be the three speakers following Mr. Moses. But please speak your last name for me also, please.
Good evening, board members. Can you hear me now? Good evening, board members. Thank you for having me here. My name is Moses, last name Nwegwe, and that's Nigerian. I'd like to speak about the unification process of Malibu, and I'd like to say that as first and foremost as a citizen, and secondary as a district employee. And my concerns are that I don't feel the city of Malibu has stated a good reason to separate from Santa Monica, and it's a fairly young city as well. The city council that makes up the city is roughly not even 30 years old, which is fairly new for a city. And I feel that other options should be explored, such as perhaps creating more seats on the board to get more local control for the people or patrons of Malibu. So any concerns that they do have can be addressed in that matter. And I'd like to urge the members here to vote against the unification of Malibu, and it's not in the best interest of this district or for both parties, rather, for that sake. And that's where I'd like to, voice my concerns on that nature. And thank you again.
Thank you, Moses. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Christine Haves. Ms. Haves, welcome.
SMM USD School Board. I'm a homeowner in Santa Monica. I've been a resident for almost 20 years. At Santa Monica, we share a vision, equity for all children. How is Santa Monica responsible to locate these children for whom we are most concerned from all across LA County? How can we equitably distribute Malibu's money to all those districts that host these children? Let the Los Angeles County Office of Education sort out how much money Malibu owes, how many years they should pay, how to locate those children, those for whom we are most concerned. and then distribute Malibu's fundings equitably. Malibu has already reached out to Lakeland for their support. Why, or should I ask why are we having to play Malibu's Robin Hood with all their monies? El Segundo and South Bay cities, they're beachfront communities in LA County, much as we are. They're not subsidized by Malibu. They have well-kept facilities, solid assessment scores, caring employees within their districts. These are certainly all attributes Santa Monica possesses. If Lakeland decides that Malibu does owe Santa Monica money, then we accept their gift. My assumption as a taxpayer in Santa Monica, this will not be the case. I'm sure there are just too many children all across LA County. They need Malibu's money in worse ways than we do. As Santa Monicans, all we have left to say Malibu is thank you. Thank you for supporting our children for many, many generations. Respectfully submitted, Christine Hovest, Santa Monican. Thank you, and go Vikings.
Thank you, Ms. Hovest. Our next speaker is Mr. Kevin Shankman. Mr. Shankman, welcome.
Thank you. I was here at the October 30th board meeting as well, and I was here at the October 30th board meeting as well, and I remarked at that meeting that to me, even when I was serving on the Monk committee, this was never about money, and I think that's true for most Malibu residents. It has always been about self-determination. And what I didn't mention there is that actually I was just echoing comments made by board member De La Torre years earlier. Mr. De La Torre is not a Malibu resident. He's actually a resident of probably the most underprivileged neighborhood in Santa Monica. But in response, one board member remarked that self-determination is a concept applicable only to people of color. And I thought that is both historically inaccurate and offensive and destructive. It's historically inaccurate because the concept of self-determination took hold principally around the time of World War I and just thereafter. And it was first associated with areas like the Balkans, the Baltics, and the Caucasus. Now that's not to say that other groups don't have that same right. When we say a right is for us, not them, him, not her, we diminish the right itself. And we lose any moral credibility that we may have had in talking about that right. I urge you not to do that. Every group is entitled to self-determination, whatever the color of their skin, whatever their wealth, whatever their class, whatever their gender. Now, in some sense, I don't envy the seven of you. You have a tremendous burden here. Because you are really the only thing that stands between an all-out war. And I don't say that as a threat. I really don't. I just say it as a statement of reality. And the kids who will get hurt most by that war are the same kids who you purport to be protecting. Please take that into account. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shankman. Our next speaker is Mr. Sam Hall Kaplan. Before Mr. Kaplan speaks, the next three speakers following Mr. Kaplan will be Marty King, Lee LaPlante, and Melanie Goudsward.
The points have already been made, and I've made them before. So I want to just put a little perspective, the perspective of a parent who's had children in both Santa Monica and Malibu systems, and as a renter here in Santa Monica, and then a homeowner, and now a homeowner in Malibu. Many years ago, nearly 40, I remember distinctly the Rent Control Board. You all know about the Rent Control Board. And there was a real battle going on that absentee owners really took strong exception to the board representing Santa Monica and wanted representation on it. Where was their rationale in terms of being absentees? Well, it's the same thing here. Malibu feels in some ways that this board are absentee landlords of our system. Think about that. There is, yes, economic considerations, but there's moral ones. The Rent Control Board turned down the application for the absentee owners. You should do the same. Understand representing Malibu is distinct and different and separated. Do the right thing. You know it in your hearts. This is not a question of money, not a question of greed. It's a question of doing the right thing. Please do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplan. Our next speaker is Marty King. Welcome, Mr. King.
Thank you, Board. Myself, born and raised in Malibu, went to Webster Elementary, Malibu Park Junior High School, and had to drive to Santa Monica to go to high school. So now we have Malibu as a place of having a high school. It's obviously combined with a junior high school. My position is this, is that when I walk through the halls of Malibu High School or junior high, whatever you want to call it, it's very nostalgic for me because everything's still the same way it was when I went to school there. I just had my 40th high school reunion, Samo High. It was great. Most of the people I spoke to at the reunion said to me, they go, "Oh, Malibu, it's still separate. It's still connected with Santa Monica. It's not its own school district." They thought that was crazy. So my daughters, who were sophomores at Malibu High, they love it. They love the teachers. The facilities, of course, they're working on it. They're making it better, supposedly, all that great stuff. But the facilities are terrible. And we go play soccer in Simi Valley. We go play soccer in Moore Park. We go play anywhere. My daughters told me when we went and played at Simi Valley last year, they said to me, "Dad, can we move here?" Because the facilities, they weren't joking. They were not joking. Because the facilities, the field, the playing field was so amazing. So we need self-control so we can create an environment that all of our kids and our community can be proud of. Because it just is what it is. You guys are 24 miles away. You always have been. You always will be. We need to control our own destiny. We need representation. We don't need taxation without it. We need to control ourselves and our own situation, period. The one thing, again, that we have going for us, and to your attribute, is that our teachers and our staff, it's really, we have a great teachers, a great staff. We have a great new principal. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King.
Hi,
Our next speaker is Ms. LaPlante.
Yes,
Welcome.
said it perfectly. Thank you. Hello, Board. Thank you for having us. I wanted to just say that I know this is a very tough decision. It's very complex, and it's not without a lot of thought and struggle for everybody. But I'm a realtor. I've been in Malibu about 20 years. I have 2 children in the high school, and they will not see the benefits of this. But as a community member and as a person who is sort of on the ground floor, when people come to Malibu, many times they're coming with kids, and their first thing they say to me, "Tell me about the schools." I agree with Marty. The teachers are great. There's great community spirit, but I am literally embarrassed because first we had the PCB debacle. I didn't really want to go there because we were all sick to death of it, but that left a very bad taste in Malibu citizens' mouth, and it was just not handled properly from the get-go, and it, thank God, is being handled now, but that was very tough for the realtors. We had to literally create an entire, addendum because people had deals that literally fell apart. Houses got back on the market because people backed out when they heard that the kids were getting poisoned and the teachers were getting poisoned, and they were. And this is something we need to realize that Malibu is its own unique area, and I had 3 nieces who went through Samo, and I know that my sister-in-law, I told her I was coming here tonight, and she said, "Gee, the only thing I really thought was getting, toilet paper and paper towels and soap in the bathrooms. Well, now I hear from my kids, gee, they redid these bathrooms, but we still don't have soap and toilet paper." I mean, we've got to have control of our own schools. We always are feeling like we're the ugly stepchild
who, you know, I go to Stairway to the Stars, and the theaters are gorgeous, and you go to our schools, not. Thank you very much. Let us go separation.
Our next speaker is Alan, and then following will be Bonnie Lockram, Bessie Shang, and Stacy Cox. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. For Santa Monica residents to argue that Malibu advocates for district separation don't care about all the kids, just their own, ignores the core idea underlying Malibu's existential need for local control. The Santa Monica Malibu School District is already 2 school districts. Malibu is a discontiguous city, part of a school district it would be illegal to create today. It's distant from Santa Monica. 25 existing school districts are closer to Santa Monica than Malibu. Malibu does not share a substantial community identity with Santa Monica. Our school district has 2 entirely independent pre-K through 12 pathways in 2 entirely different cities, pathways in which students from one city never interact with each other. The only commonality is that both district schools are governed by the same school board, a school board that is dominated by 84% of voters from only one of those 2 cities. Other than locally electing a new school board in Malibu and repainting the names on the schools and the buses, nothing would be any different the day after separation from the day before. This is the inescapable logic of our school district. Logic, in my opinion, which is being completely ignored by several members of the board, all conveniently from Santa Monica. As somebody emailed me last week, democracy cannot function and effective governance is thwarted without local control of public institutions. Related to this, even accepting the administrative boundaries of our district, all the kids needs to mean all the kids. Malibu kids do not receive equal services. This is true in both course and school offerings. For example, Samo High offers Spanish, French, Chinese, Japanese, and Latin. Malibu High offers Spanish and sometimes French. Santa Monica has a dual immersion school and a project-based learning school. Malibu has none. Samo High offers ethnic studies. Malibu doesn't. Even if we could leave aside the fundamental voting rights issue at stake here, all the kids must include equal services for all the kids, and that includes Malibu. Thank you.
Thank you, Millie. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Bonnie Lockram. Welcome, Ms. Lockram.
Thank you. Before I begin, I want to thank Member Craig Foster for being at the Optimist Club this morning at 7 a.m. at Pepperdine. We honored 20 students, outstanding students from the Malibu community, and he's got a long day, so thank you. I was hired by Santa Monica Unified School District. Important to say Santa Monica because in 1973 when I was hired, that's what it was. And I've watched the growth and development. I've been in front of the board for many issues, and I appreciate your support and understanding over the years. It's very important to us. In those years, we had a very articulated program. For instance, I taught elementary through high school, or through, then it was junior high school in Malibu. And I was able to articulate the students from whatever grade they started. In those days, it was early elementary. And it eliminated the need to have part-time teachers at the high school and at the junior high. I was able to be a full-time teacher and articulate the students. Right now, Malibu High and Malibu Middle School has to hire part-time people for the music program. I was a music teacher, so I'm going to address specifically the music inequities that I have witnessed throughout the district. First of all, in Malibu, many times we have to have heterogeneous music classes, meaning perhaps the students that want to take flute, others that want to take clarinet have to be in the same class because the numbers are too small and the district doesn't feel that we can afford teachers for such small classes. In Santa Monica, the flute players, I'm speaking of 4th grade specifically now, get their own class. Clarinet players get their own class. Another option that we've been, rather than having heterogeneous classes, would be to just not offer clarinet one year and offer flute one year and clarinet the next, which means the 4th graders just don't get to choose one of those instruments. Another inequity is students that participate in the honor orchestras have to take buses into town, an extra hour of traveling prior to the rehearsal, assuming that the highway is in good shape, and an hour after the rehearsal. In many cases, the buses are late, and so the students are not returned to home until oftentimes 10 or 11.
Thank you, Ms. Lockram.
Thank you.
Very much. Friends, we're going to say within the next couple of minutes if there are any other speaking chits to be turned in. They will need to be turned in, so you have a full 2 minutes. Anything that comes after, say the next 3 minutes or so, Sarah will notate that, and
Thank you, Ms. Shane. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, dear board members. I know there's a lot of local Malibu people here. I'm only new. I've been in Malibu for 2 years. And I'm born, raised in China, and 3 years in Australia, 7 years in Canada, and 3 years so far in Malibu. So I consider myself a global citizen. Sometimes I look at this issue, I feel puzzled. Why 20 miles away, two cities are unified through one school district? I was puzzled at the beginning. I asked friends, and they said, well, historical reasons. And I said, you know what? Historical reasons doesn't make it right. There's a lot of things that happen in the history that are not right. Therefore, we're making changes. And the changes are difficult, but doesn't mean we should just avoid it. So you guys sitting in a position to do the right thing. And this is my third board meeting. And through the previous two, I got a taste of the complication of the issue. I saw the financial numbers, and I'm a certified financial analyst. I'm very sensitive to numbers. But when I look at the assumptions and based on assumptions and 50 years forecasting, and I say, you know what, making decisions based on that, probably you can ask a monkey could make better decisions. Those are not reliable. Please don't rely on those numbers. Making decisions from the heart, not through the rules, or because changes are too difficult. And Malibu, yes, it has a higher revenue per kid, and we have no voting right. Doesn't mean that Malibu does not deserve its own local control, its own school district. We should have our own school district, just like we have our hospital, our own.
Thank you, Ms. Shane. Thank you. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Stacey Cox. Welcome, Ms. Cox.
Good evening, members of the board. In addition to being the proud mom of a second-grade girl at Webster, I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a licensed advanced alcohol and drug counselor for the states of California and New Mexico. I work as a full-time psychotherapist in my Santa Monica private practice, and I have the privilege of working with students who attend both Malibu Public Schools and Santa Monica, public schools. I have continued to be bewildered by this entire separation process, and in that same vein, by what message is being taught to our children during this process. It feels to me like the resounding message is greed supersedes living in integrity. Where is the moral compass in you folks? In my private practice, I work with all of my clients on identifying their values, meaning what matters to them most about their personal development, and then making sure to honor these pieces in themselves as they strive for self-actualization. As a therapist and as a mother too, I find this kind of work important in terms of changing people and the world that we all live in. How the heck is living in integrity and following the values of being an educator and a protector of education not deemed as a priority for the school board? As you are in fact at the top of the hierarchy of this educational institution for these kids, how is anyone capable of looking at themselves in the mirror from this board if he or she is continuing to push for Malibu to be stuck to Santa Monica? We have been prisoners to you for way too many years, and enough is enough. By sticking with Santa Monica, Malibu is not able to independently grow and to honor our own value system, which looks a lot different than the Santa Monica's value system. Just as one example of the Santa Monica value system versus the Malibu value system playing out, if Malibu was separate from Santa Monica, the genocide debacle would never have happened 2 years ago. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next three speakers are Karen Ferrer, Catherine Ellis, and then Jessica Ellis. Welcome, Ms. Ferrer.
Thank you. I'd like to start by thanking Dr. Durati for coming to Malibu on Monday morning. In the 26 years that I've been a parent volunteer in the Malibu schools, I don't remember something like that happening. And I'm thinking all the way back to Neil Schmidt for any of the old people like me. So we really appreciate that very much. And I think I speak for everybody. We were very happy that you came and listened intently and respected our opinions. So now I'd like to read something that is in the newspaper this week in Malibu that I wrote. Regarding the finances of splitting the school district, Santa Monica does not lose money. The transitions are designed to give Santa Monica Unified School District rising revenues as they convert from shared Santa Monica and Malibu revenues, aka SMMUSD, to the revenues Santa Monica generates on its own. Approximately $30 million in sales tax, rent, and joint use funds, plus becoming a self-funded basic aid district in the next few years, probably before the split could even take effect. What Santa Monica does lose is the share of Malibu's property taxes it has been getting over the last 5 years or so, since Santa Monica became a minimum state aid, basic aid light, transition, with the same benefits. So if the problem is having less money, Santa Monica does not lose money. If the problem is wanting a continued share of Malibu's property taxes, even after acknowledging Malibu's right and need for independent local control, that cannot be avoided. It is clear Santa Monica alone will have more money per student than all but a tiny handful, approximately 3% of California schools. Malibu will have even more, but that is the nature of the two communities.
Ms. Fair, thank you so much. We'll be happy to receive that into the record.
And you shall. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Catherine Ellis. Ms. Ellis, welcome.
Hey there. It was my understanding, and I'm new in Malibu, that we were on the way to separation. It had been agreed to. You guys appointed people from Santa Monica and Malibu to be together and study this. And they studied and met weekly, volunteer basis, for 18 months. We got an independent contractor approved supposedly by you guys. So they did all this, and suddenly we're back at square one, it seems to me. And I am upset as a parent because right now I have a sixth grader who will not go to school. 2 months into sixth grade, little boy, and he hates the teaching. The teachers are good. The facilities are bad. We have rats. It's embarrassing. We had PCBs. My parents were calling me from the South. You're sending your children to a school with poison, and he will not go. And I have been told that in Malibu, there is nothing project-based, which is his mode of learning. He's very physical. He's into sports and performance, and he will not go. And he hates school so much that we're looking at other schools. He will not go. So we're faced with hiring a tutor, and it is very disturbing to hear that if we lived in Santa Monica and if he went to one of the junior highs or SAMO, there would be other options. It's not fair for Santa Monica. It feels like it's about money, and for us, it feels like it's about our kids. I didn't like driving this far to get fingerprinted. It took 2 hours plus round trip, and we're way far away. We're rural. It's urban here, and we just want out, and we thought that was agreed upon. And it's very disheartening because I hear this is going on for years to be back at square one. We just want out. And if it's about money, let's figure it out, but we want out. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Our next speaker is Ms. Jessica Isle. That's that correct?
You did. Not many people do.
Welcome.
Thank you. When I told my family that I would be in Santa Monica for a meeting tonight about school separation, my 11-year-old son asked, "What are you trying to do anyway?" I explained that Santa Monica takes Malibu's school tax dollars and we have no say in how it's spent. Malibu wants to decide how to run our schools with our own money. He asked, "Does Santa Monica need our money?" I told him that Santa Monica was one of the wealthiest school districts in California. He said, "Stealing from the rich to give to the rich sounds like Robin Hood's gone crazy." Well, it isn't just Robin Hood that's gone crazy. It seems the whole concept of democracy has gone crazy. What Malibu residents are hearing is that, yes, the school board believes in democracy and self-governance for Malibu, but only at a price. And by the way, Santa Monica can set that price, and Malibu cannot. The board works within the confines of a political system that demands allegiance to Santa Monica voters. So naturally, that is where the board spends their time, attention, and money. This imbalance of power has created inequalities in the school services provided and left Malibu kids losing out. It is precisely why school districts with discontiguous cities are no longer legal. The distance between the communities and disparity of voting population means that providing equitable services to all students is simply not possible, regardless of the board's best intentions. And I do believe that when you all say you all care about all children, whether they live in Dallas, Texas, or Quebec, I do believe that is true in your hearts. I think we all do care about all children, but that caring in our hearts doesn't always translate into financial caring, and that's the problem here. I was going to conclude with something else, but the lovely lady who sits or sat on the Santa Monica City Council sounded very open to working out some financial agreement. I believe Santa Monica can and wants to look after its own kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Isles. Our next three speakers are John Miller, Jennifer DeNicola. Jennifer, I have you for both the public comment and on this item. Is that correct? And then Sonia Pearl. Well,
thank you. Tonight I'm reading a letter from William McCarthy, who was for 11 years a member of the district's advisory committee on health and safety. He writes, that experience prepared me for the recent board decision to oppose separating Malibu and Santa Monica into two separate districts based upon the unification proposal. They justified their decision by asserting concern for how this separation would affect all district students. Their stated concern for Malibu students, though, is belied by 2 decades of decisions that consistently disrespected, disenfranchised, and disadvantaged Malibu schools to the detriment of Malibu's low-income students who also were in the district. Despite the high cost of recruiting and retaining teachers in Malibu, the district has conveniently assumed that Malibu schools have the same cost of living and community expenses as Santa Monica schools, which is laughable given Malibu's remoteness and rural character. The predictable result has been markedly lower quality and quality of science and foreign language classes at Malibu High compared to Samo High. 10% of Malibu students qualify for government-subsidized school meals. Malibu's low-income students are the biggest losers in this pattern of shortchanging Malibu schools. The board is happy with the status quo as it permits the funding of science and foreign language enrichment programs at Samo High not available to Malibu High students. The fact that this exploitative position robs Malibu's low-income students of any practical possibility of preparing for a STEM career does not appear to concern the current board. Why are they so heartless? Because favoring Santa Monica students is the easiest path to re-election. It's simple math. Malibu voters are only 16% of the electorate. It is politically expedient to denigrate Malibu's concern.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jennifer DeNicola. Welcome, Ms. DeNicola.
Hi, everybody. You know, oh my God, I don't even know how long. I haven't even seen you guys in a long time. It's great to see you. And not about PCBs. But, you know, we're here doing the same thing. This started before the PCBs. We're still going on. We thought this would end. It obviously hasn't. But I'm going to get down to like the nitty gritty and not be politically correct about this. I apologize. But this has come to, my husband read the letter from Dr. Drawdy, which, by the way, guys, you guys hired this incredible superintendent, and you're not letting him do his job to do the best that he can do because he's in 2 places at once. And I'll get back to the other part in a second. But, you know, he was sitting at, I'm going to call it a rap meeting with the teachers, and Santa Monica had a bomb threat. And I think he got to see that 23 miles, which right now takes about 35 minutes, I just looked, but sometimes can take like 3 hours. It's a long way to be. You can't divide in 2 places and be good at both. We have a disheveled school. Yes, I'm very happy that you guys are cleaning it all up, but it can be done faster, better. People can be watching it. We just don't have that capacity, and you can't ask our principal to be these two people too. She needs to run our school district, our Malibu High School. And she's not able to do that because we ask her 8 million times a day, or somebody does, what's going on with the building and facilities. Right now, we need, and listen, if we can separate, we'll take Ben. He's amazing. I mean, that's great. But let him, everyone has to be able to do their job. And right now, we can't do both. So getting back to the story, my husband read the letter from Dr. Dradi, and he's like, everyone's saying it's not about money. This is about money. This is about greed. It really is. Santa Monica and Malibu have nothing to complain about. Neither one of the cities do. And we need to put that on the table and realize that this is really about what's best for both kids. And you guys took oath to do this, and I hope that you will.
Thank you, Ms. Nicole. Our next speaker is Pearl. Welcome, Ms. Pearl.
All right, so we had a choice 5 years ago to go to Laco, and I remember Craig Foster saying, no, let's sit with Santa Monica and let's work this out together. And 5 years later, my daughter's in 10th grade, lots of fundraising, feasibility report, Monk recommendations, and as Jen said, it's all about the money. And so I want to ask our new CFO, to come up with a zero-based budget. Let me know what programs will Santa Monica lose with $9,500 per student. I'd like to compare with other school districts that are getting $9,500 per student, which is what you'd get without Malibu's support, and see if the same programs are being offered, because I believe that efficiency can be achieved if programs are restructured and monies are disseminated wisely. It's great that we have a new person in place, and I believe with a new person comes new blood and new vision. So I believe that Santa Monica will be able to have all the programs in place, and the fear that we're trying to create among Santa Monica residents about a lack of resources is untrue. We have a right as Malibuites to see our Malibu City schools benefit from the vision that stems from local control. And as a Santa Monica education activist so aptly wrote, stop tinkering with the Monk recommendations and set the butterfly free. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pearl. Our next three speakers are Seth Jacobson, Vince Bradley, and Stacy Rouse. Is Mr. Jacobson here? Thank you. Vince Bradley? Mr. Bradley? It may be outdoors. So Stacy Rouse? Welcome. Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you. Board, appreciate your time today, this evening, and I'd like to just talk a little bit about a few things going on here. First of all, I'm a Malibu business owner. I've been in the community for over 20 years, and I got to say that it keeps me really busy. But at this point, this is so serious. It's so important for all of us to make the right decision here. A couple things. In Malibu, 16% of the voting population, therefore impossible to garner a majority in elections. Malibu, 16% of student population, therefore programs are more costly to deliver to Malibu. This is cited as the reason for not providing equitable services to Malibu. Examples: foreign language, advanced math, and enhanced STEM, bachelorette program, dedicated performing arts school, high school facilities, and more. Malibu's response to this disparity programming is heightened by the share of funding which comes disproportionately from Malibu. Sources: property taxes, bond measures, both of which Malibu pays a greater percentage than received. The board analysis of Monk and school services reports conspicuously avoids the issue that it costs more per student to fund schools in Malibu, and this seems disingenuous given that it's cited as the cause not to provide equal services for our students. To Malibu residents, this reads as our Board of Education, citing the need for Malibu's property tax base to pay for programs that are not offered to the children in Malibu, all while couching their stance in the rhetoric of equity for all children. The hypocrisy is astounding. Let's not forget that it would be illegal today to have the situation with the separation and the number of miles we have between these communities. There are reasons why these things change. Please do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. Our next speaker is Stacey Rouse. Welcome, Ms. Rouse. While Ms. Rouse is approaching the podium, our three speakers after Ms. Rouse will be Ingrid Peterson, William McCarthy, and Susie Parks. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody who's coming from everywhere. I feel like we come here to fight against each other, but we're we, and we're all here because we care. So I just want to say I'm hearing you, and I hope you're hearing us, because we're we, even though we say you and us. So I was part of the meeting on Monday, and I want to say thank you, Board, for asking for that meeting to happen. And I want to say thank you to Dr. Jati, Dr. Kelly, and Ms. Pensker for coming. I can't speak highly enough of the experience and the thought that it took to do that. But surprisingly, since then, I've been tired and disheartened because it hit me that a similar meeting is unlikely to happen with you, the Board. I am thankful that you're considering structural changes at an administrative level, but without changes at the Board level, nothing is going to be substantially different. Policies will remain the same, and what you know about us and how you know us in the second city that you took an oath to take care of won't change either. I hear you in all that you say. I know that you care. I know that you understand to a great extent a lot of things. But I want you as a board to know Malibu the same way that you know Santa Monica, the city where you live, where you work, where you play, and where you have relationships. There's just a fundamental difference in how you know Santa Monica and how you know Malibu. And while that difference may seem small, it's crucial. And I just think unless the structure of the board changes to be there more and know us more, that will be a piece that will never be known differently. And one person can't make that difference. I just feel like there's so many common interests and between our communities, but there are some different ones. And sometimes I feel like two kids want an orange and you split it and you give each half, but one kid wanted the peel and the other one wanted the middle. And if we talked about it, we would have figured it out. And until we all live there, we don't know.
Thank you, Ms. Rouse.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ingrid Peterson. Welcome, Ms. Peterson.
Thank you. Hello again. For people who don't know, I'm speaking as both a Webster and Malibu High School parent and a staff member, once at Webster and now at Malibu High School. I've actually worked at all the schools in Malibu, if you count the summers. I'm speaking for separation. There's inequity in class offerings and programs between the two cities. Two examples. Our Malibu High School Chinese American students would probably love to study their ancestral language, but Chinese is offered only in Santa Monica. My son now goes to a project-based learning college, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, whose motto is learn by doing. He would have loved to have attended a project-based learning program, but only Santa Monica has such a school. He's about to graduate in engineering as an honored Loop Scholarship recipient. He used to look at the Santa Monica High School course offerings and wish Malibu High School had an engineering course too. It does now, but it didn't then, and it's just a 4-year grant. Malibu taxpayers are being used to support unequal offerings in the schools, and it's not fair.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Mr. McCarthy, welcome.
Thank you, Board, for the opportunity to speak. I'm William McCarthy from Malibu. I recommend separating the two districts to benefit the low-income students in both districts. Last year's Noguera report on addressing learning inequities in the district recommended that the board focus more on addressing the substantive impediments to student learning rather than getting distracted by non-education related concerns. For the board to do this, it needs to spin off its sister Malibu districts so that both districts can do a better job of focusing on addressing the needs of their respective low-income students. School districts with fewer resources in Santa Monica, notably in Hawthorne and Lawndale, have succeeded in addressing income-related disparities in learning. Money is not the reason why the board has failed to improve equity. It is and will remain among the 5% wealthiest districts in the state after Malibu unification. The problem is the board's history of ignoring substantive concerns from both communities in favor of political optics. Examples of issues impinging on students' academic performance that historically have been ignored by the board and district administration range from the use of pesticides around our schools to PCB removal from window caulking to the window vending machine sales of junk food on our high school campuses to refusing to eliminate sugar-added flavored milk from school lunch menu. Gratuitously making junk food and sugar-added milk more available to students is relevant here because students who consume more junk food and more sugar are fatter and less physically fit, which in turn is associated with lower math and reading test scores. Because high-income students are more likely to consume home-prepared lunches, it is disproportionately the low-income students who have suffered from the junk food and sugar-sweetened milk available at school. If the board would focus less on raising money and more on practical steps to raise students' test scores, it would enjoy more success in reducing learning inequities. Lawsuits seem to be the only way for Malibu parents to get the board to behave more equitably under the current arrangement. Separation is the most reasonable solution for improving equity for both Santa Monica's and Malibu's low-income students.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Our next speaker is Susie Parks. Welcome, Ms. Parks.
Thank you. I would like to reiterate some of what Mr. McCarthy spoke about and go into a little bit more detail about the Noguera report. Both the school board and some Santa Monica residents suggest that Santa Monica needs Malibu money to help close the achievement gap within the district. However, the Noguera report refutes this notion. Pedro Noguera's report made crucial conclusions in this regard. For over 20 years, SMMUSD has undertaken a number of initiatives to address and reduce racial and socioeconomic disparities in student achievement. None of these efforts have reduced disparities in student achievement or produced significant or sustainable improvements in academic outcomes for African American and Latino students, English language learners, children with learning disabilities, and low-income students generally in the school district. Many of the promising initiatives that have been undertaken have not been well implemented, nor have they been systematically evaluated. Lack of progress can also be attributed to the frequent distractions experienced by district leaders, board members, central office directors, and site leaders. Nowhere in Dr. Noguera's report does he mention money, let alone a lack of money, as a factor in SMMUSD's failure to achieve its most basic goal. Instead, he mentions distractions as one of the reasons they have not succeeded. As an independent school district, SMUSD will have a board and administration focused on one manageable 4-mile by 4-mile area comprised of 7 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and a single comprehensive high school. SMMUSD is failing to meet its fundamental responsibilities and goals. Research clearly shows smaller school districts are more efficient. Therefore, independence for SMUSD and MUSD will improve both districts' opportunities for success by creating smaller, locally controlled institutions. This will simultaneously remove the friction and distraction of governing two disparate, distant entities. So if Santa Monica sincerely wishes to reach its goal of excellence through equity, it needs to dispense with the growing distraction of Malibu and focus on itself.
Thank you, Ms. Parks. Our next three speakers are Jeff Kletter, Gloria Garcia, and Sofia Ramirez. Welcome, Mr. Kletter.
Thank you. Nice to see you all again. As you know, I mean, listen to these passionate, bright, caring people, all of you here as well. And it does sound a little bit like money plays a big role here. But it shouldn't. At this point, all the money that's come from all these years, you have nice schools. You have great programs. You can go out on your own. You can do this and just be fine. We'd like to do the same. We'd like to just have our own school district, take care of our kids. I think you all know, you've heard a lot over years. I mean, this has been a 10-year divorce, 20-year divorce. You just don't want to let us divorce, so it's time. A Santa Monica, a member on or a Santa Monica resident at the last meeting said it is just like a divorce, but you have to figure out a way that you can be happy, both will be happy, because we just want to be happy. And you do too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kletter. Ms. Garcia? Gloria Garcia? Welcome, Ms. Garcia. We need a translator. Dr. Garden, do we have someone? Dr. Mora, can you for us? Right, Dr. Mora, thank you. And so, Ms. Garcia, you'll have double the amount of time, so the timer will be set 4 minutes for you.
Thank you. Como padre, como madre de familia, quiero expresar mi preocupación en este deseo de Malibu de separarse del distrito.
As a parent, I would like to express my concerns regarding Malibu's desire for unification.
Con todo respeto a todas las personas, seguramente tienen sus razones.
I respect every individual's opinion. They must have their own reasoning.
Y igual que ellos, yo siento que también tengo mi razón en preocuparme en cuál será el resultado de esta separación.
And similarly to them, I also have my own concerns in relationship to what this separation means.
Desafortunadamente, yo siento que en todo este proceso no escucho que haya solidaridad con los niños.
Unfortunately, throughout this whole process, I do not hear solidarity for our students.
Siento como que si la educación no es lo más importante, sino quizás el control o quizás el dinero.
I feel that their education is not the most important thing discussed, and possibly it is just about their own local control or the money.
A diferencia de, si se hablan de cómo es una diferencia este distrito de otros en el estado o en el país, ha sido seguramente porque la unión es la que les da la fuerza.
So if anyone has talked about what separates our district from any other district, it is because of the unity.
Me preocupa que esta separación va a frustrar el deseo que hay de que haya una igualdad en la educación.
I am concerned that this separation will cause a lack of equity, of true equity in education.
Hago un llamado al Comité de Educación y a todas las personas involucradas para que hagan una decisión justa que no afecte a la educación en el futuro.
I ask the members of the board and to all the individuals involved in this process to make a just and fair decision that does not affect the education of our students in the future.
Creo que invertir en la educación siempre dará un mejor resultado a la sociedad.
I believe that investing in education will always give a better result to our community and society.
Gracias por escucharme y con todo respeto para cada quien.
Thank you so much for listening to me, and my respects to everyone.
Muchas gracias, Gloria Garcia. Our next speaker is Sofia Ramirez. Welcome, Ms. Ramirez.
Good evening, board members. My name is Sofia Ramirez. I'm a Santa Monica resident. I'm a leader in the community, in the school community too. In addition to the huge financial impact, Santa Monica residents, should the split happen, there will be less money for Santa Monica, and this may have an impact against the students with permits. Because of less money, people are going to want less students. A lot of permit students are children of nannies and housekeepers that works for Santa Monica and Malibu families. And the split could have a negative domino effect. We just don't know, so make the right decision and safeguard all the students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ramirez. Thank you. Our next speaker is Irma Carranza.
Good evening, board members. Thank you. My name is Irma Carranza.
Mi nombre es Margarita de la O.
We're sharing our time, so it's okay. So we're parents where our kids went through the district, and it was difficult, but with the quality and the support and this combined Santa Monica Malibu shared funding, our kids were able to go through the district and go on to higher education, colleges, and good universities. Actually, Margarita's children,
Mis hijos han ido a USC, a Harvard, a MIT, a Berkeley y a Northridge y Santa Monica College. Tengo 5 hijos, afortunadamente los 5 han ido al colegio. Una de ellas fue a Arizona High School, University, y es mi preocupación que no quiten el dinero porque luego van a quitar todos los apoyos para los alumnos que puedan ir a grandes escuelas.
so she was naming some of the universities that her children have gone to, and she said the concern is that, you know, with the split and the impacts of that, that will make it harder for kids, for students, to go on to higher education just like our kids were able to. And so it's a really hard decision, I know, but I hope that nobody plays politics here and nobody's playing politics with our children, but rather, like Dr. Noguera said, put our kids first. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you to both of you. Our next speaker is Joan Krennick. Welcome, Ms. Krennick. Following Ms. Krennick will be Nora Cohen, Ann Thanawala, and Lauren Polite. All of 3 of those speakers will have 1 minute, and this will be the last call for public speaking comments. So if you have a desire to still address the board, you'd have 1 minute, but you need to get the card in now, please. Welcome, Ms. Krennick.
Thank you. As we all know, the proposals submitted by both Monk and School Services of California, they both acknowledge a persistent and significant gap in per pupil funding that will negatively impact Santa Monica students if unification is approved. This financial gap is partly mitigated in both proposals through financial settlements. Malibu parents have threatened that you should accept one of these proposals or risk unification being approved absent a financial settlement. Given the magnitude of the gap and given that Malibu schools are in fact doing very well as part of our joint district, I do not believe LACO or the state would approve unification absent a financial settlement. You should stand your ground. In an ideal world, we'd be able to negotiate a Plan A and stay together as a district with both constituent groups agreeing to work together under a new model, and we could focus on supporting all our students. Although this is clearly the smartest approach for all parties, given the heated rhetoric of the past few years, I'm doubtful we can be successful in this approach. I think many would be willing to accept the proposed Plan B, which is the School Services of California model of revenue sharing for a period of 50 years. I also think another option should be considered, which would be to allow Malibu to establish charter schools within Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District. This would be the fastest solution and would provide Malibu with autonomy of leadership and decisions over education programs without the risks that the unification approval process entails. This would also allow the remaining unified district to avoid ongoing negative battles and would allow us to likely achieve basic aid status in 2019-20 and avoid this nasty and expensive election. I'd like us to move forward in a healthy and positive way. I very much appreciate the difficult position you're in, and I appreciate that you all want to move forward with a solution that is likely to be accepted. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Krennick. Thank you. So I'm going to just take a moment and say this is the last moment to turn in a card. All that I have in my hand are 1 minute time frame. This is the last one, although I see a gentle person walking out that door, and I don't know if she's, no, she went the other direction. All right, that's it. So now the speakers list is closed to address the Board of Education on this item. Our next three speakers are Noah Cohen, Ann Thanawala, and Lauren Polito. I got it right the second time. Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Cohen.
Thank you. My first time doing this, I'm a little nervous. Thank you so much for doing all this. Thank you to Santa Monica, Malibu. I'm a mom. I have 3 boys. My 6-year-old twins just started at Webster. They have Miss Conrad, lots of homework. They were also up last night with a bunch of stuff, so I'm a little tired too, so please excuse me if I'm not as articulate, etc. But I also work at a horse ranch in Malibu where we rescue animals and then we provide therapeutic healing experiences for the Los Angeles community. So I work with children in underserved neighborhoods. I worked with a host of different populations and combat veterans, gang members, etc. And so education, my community is my passion. Giving back is my passion. And so last board meeting, I noticed there was this aspect of inequities coming up. So we're new in the school board, and my kids are just starting out. Is it already 2?
Thank you, Ms. Cohen.
Oh, wait, that was only a minute?
It's 1 minute. Thank you for your time, for your
only got a
comments.
minute.
Thank you.
I thought I would have 2. Anyway, thank you so much for everyone, and I hope
you were a great
that
first-time
everyone.
caller.
Yeah, that was. You guys, that was terrible. That was
Richard, I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question, really quick.
Ms. Cohen?
Yeah. I have a question.
Oh, thank
Member
you.
Dr. LaTorre.
Do you have a suggested resolution?
Do I have it? Yes, I do. I do have one. So I was just looking through the inequities. Thank you for that, Oscar, or Mr. De La Torre. I'm so bad at the niceties. But anyway, so yes, I do. I was looking at all the inequities, and quite honestly, it's not just for Malibu kids. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that Santa Monica kids are, struggling with, and I know you all are doing your best. The one thing that I did notice is that, look,
Ms. Cohen, I have to ask you to answer the member's question.
Answer the member's question. Yes, I will do that. So what I noticed is that with the inequities, when I talked to a lot of people, we got a lot of information that in the past, the board, anytime like Malibu would come up with trying to, with some of these inequities, they also brought a lot of solutions, right? So a lot of funding suggestions to the board, resources provided by Malibu to the board, and categorically every single time they were denied, right? So that was one thing that I noticed from Malibu. They were coming with solutions, yet the board kept vetoing it every single time. And I just wanted to know, based on what I do, when there are 2 entities and one is constantly coming with solutions, I will tell you right now, one is constantly coming up with solutions and the other entity is constantly vetoing, that's kind of a toxic relationship, right? Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Anyway, let's get out of this toxic relationship.
Thank you. Ann Thanawala, welcome.
Hello. I'm a parent of a child at Roosevelt. I'm very active in the community, and I've got to say we are tired of hearing about this divorce. We respectfully ask the board to put an end to this protracted distraction that's diverting the energy, the time, and the resources from your mission, which is equity through access. We're standing up for the rights of all children and families in our district and firmly believe that we must lead by example. Asking our children to walk a straight and ethical path means we must show them what that path looks like. And when paths diverge, we say, take the high road. Tonight, we must lead by example for the following reasons. It's time for the school board to hold themselves responsible for the lack of representation, responsibility, accountability, and transparency that has brought us to this fork in the road. Our school board says this is about money, that it's an equity issue. In a divorce, money is usually the final line item. If there's no solution, no admission of wrongdoing, money is the only bargaining chip. It provides the distraction to cover the infidelity. So,
would be happy to receive those
yeah.
for the record.
Sell
Our
it
next
up,
speaker
sum it up, and finish.
Is Lauren Polito. Welcome, Ms. Polito.
Hi, I'm going to be very quick because that minute goes fast. So I'm the PTA president at Webster. I think one thing that we are kind of, no one has mentioned so far is, you know, we were looking at, my husband and I were looking at the Financial Times, and they were quoting that, you know, with Santa Monica being, with 22,000 startups, tech startups, it's Silicon Beach now. The property values have actually gone up 50% in the last 5 years, and every neighborhood in the city is now within the top 5% in the U.S. in terms of real estate values, and I think that should be taken into consideration here. I mean, Malibu, I know the tax base is big, but the trajectory of Santa Monica is on course, and so the funding, you know, really will even itself out in that regard. Whatever I have left of my minute as a PTA president, I could just tell you that it's very difficult for us to get anything done because of the distance. My son holds his pee. Like, he won't go to the bathroom at school because it's so disgusting. It took me months to get someone to come look at it. And
Ms. Polito, thank
okay,
you for your time.
All right.
For your comments. Thank you. Our next three speakers are Carl Randall, Manel Sweetmore, and Magali Lopez. Welcome, Mr. Randall.
Thank you, board members. Carl Randall, Samuel High Class of 85. I just kind of wanted to ask all of you where you were today. The Optimist Club in Malibu celebrated some of the best and the brightest kids who do things like head to Africa, and men, children, and a variety of things. I know Craig Foster was there. I know Maria was busy, obviously. She's trying to stay out of jail. I get it. But I'd like to ask where the rest of you were. This happens within our district. And Dr. Dradi, I'd like to ask you one thing.
We'd like to keep the conversation civil.
I'm done with that. I have one quick question. Dr. Dradi, when you asked the other day when we met at AMPS, we asked you about language and the inequalities between the two school districts, and that there are 5 or 6 in Santa Monica, and there's 1 to 2 in Malibu. And you said we could never get that. We would like to know. We'd like to find out. We'd like to make that decision ourselves. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Manel Sweetmore. Welcome, Mr. Sweetmore. Okay, thank you, Mr. Sweetmore. Then we go to Ms. Lopez. Welcome. Forgive me if I mispronounced your first name.
It's Magali. You said it right. I'm one of 5 children in my family, 6 with my adoptive cousin, and I benefited from the Santa Monica Malibu district. I do have to say that when you make your decision, please keep in consideration both Malibu and Santa Monica students, low-income students, because I do come from the more poverty side of Santa Monica, and thankfully, with the union, I have successfully made it through college. Thank you.
Ms. Lopez, thank you. Our next final two speakers are Daniel Sizer and Erica Leslie. Mr. Sizer, welcome.
Okay. Hi, I'm Daniel Sizer. I'm a senior at Samuel High. I don't really know what I'm going to say, but I guess it's something along the lines of I really respect what the board does and what all the parents in the district do, and I think that in my 13 years of education in the SMM-USD school district, it's been amazing. I'm so grateful for all of the opportunities afforded to me with the way the budget and the way the schools work now. And I think that I speak for many of my classmates, and they feel the same way. And I don't really understand why this needs to get so nasty when I think it's working out well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sizer. And our last speaker this evening is Ms. Leslie. Erica Leslie, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Erica Leslie. I'm the co-chair of the Intercultural Equity, Excellence, and District Advisory Committee. a member of the NAACP. I'm also a member of the Parent Connection Group, a group of African American parents. I love my children no less than any of you do. I am no more richer nor poorer in spirit or conviction than any of you. When anybody makes a decision for this group of children, these are children, not black, not white, not Mexican, they're kids. Make that consideration first. All the rest of this, I've never seen so many mathematicians in my life. All of a sudden, everybody wants to be a mathematician and crunch numbers. At the end of the day, it's about these kids, and that should be our first priority. All of these parents and grandparents out here, make that your first priority. Not about Malibu kids or Santa Monica kids, just kids, period.
Thank you, Ms. Leslie. Madam President, that concludes our speakers. I'd like to recommend a 5-minute recess.
5-minute, really, like bathroom break and whatever anyone needs, 5 minutes of deep breathing, or and then we're back here.
That we give Dr. Drotti direction to move expeditiously in bringing forward option B as an action item before this board, an action item to be brought to us no later than February 15th, 2018. Plan B, as it's been articulated at our October 30th meeting, would be a plan that would be a revenue sharing plan that would be an elongation of what we have seen from school services, a 50-year plan that would allow for an equitable sharing of revenues for this lengthy part of time. Also, in my suggestion and direction to Dr. Drotti, I would encourage and say it's with gratitude that we know you will continue to do the good work in demonstrating to Malibu the spirit that is in your heart and what I believe to be this board, that all children in Santa Monica, Malibu matter, and that we will continue to do and provide excellent education. And lastly, I would suggest that we direct Dr. Drotti to once again make an appeal to the City Council of Malibu, not to withdraw its current petition before LACO, but to engage with Dr. Deegan and the committee that is going to hear that petition to delay that first hearing until February 15th, where this board will be able to vote definitively on an action item, definitively on option B.
Can I ask a clarification of that? If the city council doesn't want to do that, it seems to me we need to oppose the petition, and we need to direct Dr. Drotti to hire whoever he needs to advise on that.
Sure, I support that. Can I say why?
And you should elaborate on all of this.
If I can elaborate, probably like many of us here on this dais, I read the many newspaper reports since we last met. I thought, wow, some of those reports aren't, I think, in line with what I heard at the dais, certainly. And I would want to make sure that if this board, if we were to support such a recommendation that I've made in direction, that the headline is that this board has definitively moved forward on unification and has a plan in place for it. And it's somewhat complicated by the fact that there is a pending motion or petition before LACO. I think it was pretty for LACO as it doesn't have a financial component. And so the ask of Dr. Drade to speak to the city of Malibu is to convey in a way that we know he can the sincerity and our commitment here if there is the direction to move with this option B, and option B in a definitive and clear way where we know a vote is coming, that we simply ask Malibu to hang tight on that first hearing. And let me just say what we've been told as a board is that it is unlikely that that first hearing will even happen before February 15th. It's a long shot, but that most likely it's going to happen late January, if not February. So we're not asking Malibu to withdraw. I'm not asking Malibu to direct our superintendent to withdraw that petition, but rather ask for a delay in the first hearing, because there is a possibility that we could have something on the table here that one could imagine, I could imagine, would cause the city of Malibu and interested parties to withdraw that petition.
Seeing nobody else's hand up, I'll say a little bit about that. I think that generally we're on the same page, but what I don't want to do is say something that then in 2 months we turn around and say, well, it didn't work because, and we didn't know what that was. So I feel like we've already given direction to have school services flesh out the formula over 50 years, the shared allocation approach. I'm really not, I don't think I'm saying anything different than what you're saying. I just want to, I want to be, everyone to be clear, because I think that I do empathize with the feeling of we've been waiting, you had this month report done, you did these things, and so I don't want to mislead anybody. I absolutely think that if they can flesh it out and address the logistics and it all looks good and it makes sense, I absolutely want to go forward with that. But they, in fairness, put out sort of it's more than a concept, but it's got a lot of detail still to be shared. And so I'm really saying that just because I want to be completely above board and I don't want to mislead anybody. And the headlines are inaccurate, and they'll probably be inaccurate again after tonight. But I just want us to be saying that this is a concept that I think already said at our last meeting, think is something that really we think could work as long as the details are worked out. And I think our problem is we don't know them well enough that it makes sense to me that they are pretty workable and that it's a lot simpler to work out than the month formula, which is, I think, the reason it's attractive to all of us. So I just want to clarify that. I don't think I'm disagreeing with you at all. And in terms of the petition, I really do feel that we can't put ourselves in a position where if the petition is going to go forward, that we're sitting on our hands and haven't done any of the work or had someone do the work to oppose it, because that does not work for us. The petition minus any financial formula doesn't work. And so I appreciate the request. I'd like to make that request, but I think I don't even know what the formal thing they need to do is, but it's not just a delay of the hearing, it's putting it on hold until we do this. And our next meeting is not till when? So I feel like that Dr. Drade will be able to find out from the Malibu City Council well before that. So if they are willing to put it on hold, absolutely, I don't think we need to move forward with the opposition. But if they're not, I just think we don't have a choice but to prepare ourselves for that at the same time. And hopefully we get to February 15th and everyone can, pull back on all of that. Just like people who are the proponents of separation feel like they need to cover their bases, I feel that we have to do the same thing. We just don't have a choice. So I just want to make a positive comment about something that happened earlier in the evening and remind us we're there for it. And I wish actually everybody had been there for it. We had a 2-hour session with principals and site leaders from all over the district honestly, regardless of your position on unification and regardless of the thorniness of the solutions that we're looking at and all of that, I just want to remind us all and share with you all that the work that's going on in the district, across the district, is really exciting. And I know that people have their own narrative about what's going on, but I do believe that as we continue to try to work out a solution in good faith, work is going to continue across the district, and it's positive for everybody and for all kids. And it would really help if we could tone down the narrative. I hear the desire for local control. It doesn't necessitate a narrative that everything is terrible in the district, because it's not. And if you visited our schools, your schools in Malibu and Santa Monica, everything's not terrible.
Ms. Lieberman, I just got to say, I drop my kids off to Webster Elementary every single morning. We don't even have a park. We don't even have a parking lot. Excuse me.
Please come and visit our school and look at the 43 routes.
Where do we park our cars?
You have the nerve to say
Hey, I'm sorry. So, can I ask, please? I understand. Believe me, I understand. This would all be much better if we could just do this up here. I think they understand how people in Malibu feel. I certainly do. But thank you.
Anyway, I intended that to be a good thing, but no good deed goes unpunished. So I will stop with that, but I do think that's a good reminder for all of us. And the only other piece I want to say is that there is apparently a lot of confusion in both, I think, the Santa Monica and Malibu parts of the community about what we have been saying or not being clear about the Monk report. So, and I think that part of that is about the fact that the Monk report had a number of components, not just an ongoing formula that affects cash flow in terms of operations, but it dealt with bond monies, assets. I don't even remember what the other four. I think there were 4 other parts, and so those parts may well, hopefully will, be usable even with the shared allocation formula. I don't think that there's a problem with that, but that should be obviously incorporated into the school services trying to formulate and flesh out the entire approach, I guess I would say. Oscar? Oh, sorry. Oscar, John, either one of you?
Yeah, okay. So I just wanted to thank everyone for coming out and speaking and making your voices heard. This issue has been going on for a long time, and longer than just in the last 2 years. I mean, I was a student at Santa Monica High School in 1990 when, the year after Malibu ended up, the school district decided to open a high school at Malibu High School. Malibu became a city in 1991, so this is part of a long process. And I think, the whole concept of local control is a very important concept that throughout the country, I think has to be respected. I think every taxpayer, every resident has to have influence over the public institutions that have, enormous impact on their destiny, and especially public schools, which have probably more of an impact than any other public institution we can think of. So it's a very sensitive issue. It's a passionate issue. I appreciate all the parents that are here, because obviously you're here to advocate for your children, and advocate for what's right for children. One of the things that's really important, and I want to recognize the comments made by Magali and also Erica, that this is about children, but also we need to talk about and make sure that in this decision we don't have an adverse effect or a negative impact on low-income students and students with special needs. And one thing that I can say, even though, some people will make comments, people are passionate, there's comments, but for the most part, the majority of the people on this board in the community, in Malibu and Santa Monica. I've heard, an overwhelming majority of people saying that they want to do right by the children of both communities. And that's something I think we have common ground there. For us in our school board, throughout the years, equity has been a concept and a principle that's very important. And I think we have to be very proud as a community that equity is something that we really believe in. And I don't think it's a principle that we can abandon because it's the right thing to do. We try to help those that have most need. And that's just as simple as it gets. And so I just want to make it very clear that from the beginning and even as we move forward, because I support what school board member Dr. Tavilder and Jeswin has stated in terms of the financial settlement, as others might call it, or the delta. I mean, it's been called many different things. That we ensure that the students with the greatest need are not left behind. And I think whether it's, I don't know exactly what, we're talking about a 50-year plan or whatever year plan, as long as we hold dear to those principles and we keep those principles in focus as we move forward, then we ensure that the parents who are concerned that the split is going to leave their children behind or create a greater deficit in resources and services for their children, that doesn't occur, because I don't think that that's something that anyone can support. I know that I've talked to Craig, who's probably the person who's the most interested in terms of having Malibu have local control, and Craig doesn't believe that should happen. So, and many of the other leaders that I've talked to in Malibu do not believe that a split should leave students with great need in Santa Monica with less resources. So I want to articulate that, because we shouldn't, fear shouldn't be guiding our decision making, and that shouldn't be, when everybody's saying this, that's not what we're going to do, then that shouldn't be, that fear should be eradicated from our minds in terms of us moving forward. I feel that also that there are costs that we can't look in a graph, that doesn't show up in a graph. There's costs in terms of how much time we spend on discussing these matters, and it's not just a unification issue, but everything from PCBs to facilities, to at one point there was a whole charter petition at Point Doom, and so those are all costs that I think will only escalate if we continue a relationship that isn't focused on positivity. And so I just, moving forward, what I want us to do is to really, resist the negative and insist on the positive moving forward. I think all of us, for the sake of our children, for the sake of all children in our school district, that we really try to focus on the positive of us putting the resources in place to take care of all of our kids in our public school system in Santa Monica and Malibu. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, on the heels of, focus on the positive, resist the negative? I don't want to dredge up the past and the whys and the whats. I just want to focus on moving forward. I'm not going to respond to things that were said tonight because that's dredging up the past. I'm in favor of what Richard suggested. I think that's mostly the best plan. But just like I felt strongly that we needed to pursue Plan A just a little bit more to understand what the definitions of everything were, and I respect the result, and I think good things came from that conversation, even though it led us to where we are now. I know that the charter word is not a word that people want to hear, but I think it's a quicker path to Malibu independence. I think it's the same funding model, most likely. I think it avoids LACO. I think it avoids state involvement. I don't think we should just dismiss that as an option if it provides a quicker path to please. I don't want to throw that baby out with the bathwater. I support what Richard says, But I think it's at least worth our time, if we're going to provide the best governance, to at least look at that. One of the reasons I feel that way, I do believe it provides a level of insurance for natural emergencies, disasters. I think a charter pathway might give us some economies with our kids with exceptional needs. I do think there's something to be said for that. But that said, the same way we explored A, which led us to at least a better understanding of how Dr. Drotti feels, maybe this will strengthen our path to B, and that's fine. I support what Richard said. The other thing I'd like to add that Lori brought up is that Monk was not just about money. There's a lot of other things that need to be figured out. Let's hope they all fit seamlessly into B. That will help us greatly. The last thing is the petition. My fear of waiting until February 15th to take a position on the petition, what if things don't work out and then we've lost 2 months of time that we should be getting our ducks in a row? If we know that we don't support a petition that has no financial settlement, I think we need to speak out now against it, because I don't see why we wait 2 months for that. Thanks. Ralph.
Thank you all for coming and speaking. Sure, in general, I support the direction that's been discussed. I think Mr. King has, brought up some important issues. There's nothing, we should be in a position that we understand, every corner, so to speak, of whatever may be possible in front of us. So I think it's it makes sense to say, because it is an option that one could choose. One could say today I don't want to choose that option, but it could be an option at some point. There are other things may happen that cause it. So there's certainly good reason for us to understand that there are other pathways and what they are. So I support that's just sort of time and research that people can bring back to us. We've done much better at wanting to be fully informed about all the issues on it before. So it's just about having to understand it. On the petition, I agree. With the others who spoke that the petition in its current form is unacceptable because it doesn't have a plan of any kind. It just basically says that there should be 2 districts, and is just asking LICO to pursue that. And I think it's important for LICO or the Commission on Urbanization, to understand where we are on that. So if if there's a formal request from the City of Malibu to LICO to delay action on that for a period of time, I think we can be able to accept that at face value and not have to deal with that. But if in discussions with LICO, I would ask that you talk to them, Dr. Drotti, as well as Malibu leadership. It makes more sense for it to come back at our next meeting to take a position, and it could move forward at another time, or we trying to move forward potentially in a different way anyway, and not have that avenue, which leads me sort of to the last part is about what's going to come back to us, which would be, well, it depends. I mean, it could come back for discussion in a general fashion, say this is kind of what we think looks like something that might be feasible, or it could be a little more fleshed out, and it would, even if it's detail that's been looked at before, let's say in the 900 pages of the Monk report and technical documents, that there's pieces in there that not only for us, but it's really again for the community to understand the basis of anything that we move forward with. That some people will be starting, about this discussion at that point in time. So I think it's difficult to say, well, we've done all that, so just look at what's here. That any proposal now or later needs, before I'm going to feel comfortable supporting it, is going to have to understand all the technical aspects of it. What does the reorganization mean, to both sides? What are the potential upsides and downsides in the future, as we've talked about, economic issues, understanding the revenue sources and the volatility. Even if it's, in its written form, it may not be, there's some technical parts to that. Again, the basis for why something is going to be in front of us. Not saying, well, here, this is what we think can work. And also what the avenues for moving that forward are. We know that one avenue would be through LEGO and potentially the state board. Another might be through the legislation. So, that's why, I think a petition could be withdrawn for now. It may never need to have another one because there may be a different way. And also, if there is another avenue for moving forward, assuming we want to, we feel comfortable in the impact, to students in both communities, is how does that, what might that agreement say in terms of, are we creating an agreement that separates us from funding from the rest of the districts in California? If there's legislation, does it say this is what Santa Monica and Malibu do? And it's regardless of if there's changes in state law relative to basic aid districts, relative to revenue limit formulas and Prop 13, or I think those are serious issues that need to be looked at if we're looking at doing something in the long term, how it affects. I hope, I'm going to read something, but I won't, that we can have, a civil discussion about this always, because it is, as we all say, it's about the kids and their futures. It's not our futures. It's our kids. It's our kids' kids, and their kids, and we want every one of them to have access and opportunity. We don't want any one of them, to think that somebody made a decision that means that I potentially can't do what I want to do. Many people in this room have been there in their lives where somebody else made a decision that limited their future. And I don't want to, I don't want to be, part of making a decision where a kid in any community says, I don't have the capacity. Thank you.
I'm here, and I guess my history is I've always, from the very beginning when we in the Monk Committee was established, had always been against the whole separation piece and unification of Malibu. I did agree on the Monk, and they came back with a report. Obviously, the results weren't as the expectation was not in terms of how it was going to support all of our children in this district. I think as the only board member that's been here for 17 years on the school board, and proudly sitting here representing both children in both districts, all of our children in both districts. That's what we're here for. We have to look at all of what the information that's in front of us, that's available to us, to actually make the greatest decision we're ever going to make in terms of the future of all our children in this district. And as we move forward, I do agree with Dr. T. Richard's representation in terms of moving forward and moving forward and seeing what response we get back from school services regarding their proposition of shared funds. One thing I would rather us take. I agree. I think we should take that vote if we need to, if we're all in agreement or not in terms of the Malibu petition, that we take it sooner than later. So I really don't want to postpone anything until February. I think if we were slated to take a decision and a vote in December, then I think we should move forward for that. Everything else we can look in terms of the formula, and I think the report, I do agree with Lori that the report has to include all the other aspects of the month's report, because that's kind of been left out. So in terms of the sharing of the assets, in terms of bond capacity, et cetera, I mean, there's a lot of pieces to that I think are going to be critical also in our decision making in terms of our future if we decide to unify as two separate districts or now unify and separate. And I think there's other, for me, the biggest piece is the bond capacity for future for us here, and even for Malibu in that respect in terms of any future development in our districts. So my whole thing, I do agree, but I think we should take that vote in December and not delay it, and then move forward with the recommendations that have been made for Dr. Daughter for you to move forward with school services and do a more comprehensive review in terms of what the formula will look like in terms of years.
Can I just clarify? So when you say take a vote in December, you mean on the petition?
The ballot petition.
Thanks.
Okay, so first thing I hear is unanimous consensus. I asked in the last meeting that this board would come back and say not what they won't do, but what they will do. And what I hear is this board unanimously has said they will support a money sharing agreement. I'll come back to that in a second. A revenue sharing agreement with a 50-year term. Right? Is that what we said? Yes? Okay, well, I mean, I think it's got to be a number, so unless I hear a number lower than 50,
I don't think we're trying to split hairs. I really think it's just, yeah, I'm sorry, I apologize, yes,
So,
I agree, we should.
I mean, the history here is certainly from the Malibu side, a feeling that the goalposts are not entirely stationary. So it would be, I think, dangerous maybe not the right word, it would be setting ourselves up for further strife for us to say, well, 50 years, but we're going to put some caveats on it, and when it comes back, we go, we didn't, no, 50 years doesn't work. So I think we don't have to say that we know for sure that this is all going to work out perfectly, but I think we sure as heck have to say that we will accept a term of 50 years with a formula that works in a particular way, and then we will work to get that formula to work. So I would suggest anybody who isn't comfortable with that withdraw their support from it, and let's see if we have people who are willing to do that, because it would be beyond bad if somehow we came back and that even was off the table. So I'm going to say that this board has unanimous support for a separating Malibu and Santa Monica in some fashion, so long as there's a revenue sharing agreement, which I'll come back to in a minute, put in place for a term of 50 years. Yeah? 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 Good? Okay. So, that's one. So then let's talk about the revenue sharing, because we focused on revenue and the monk focused on revenue because it was the easiest, and I mean that in a relative sense, way to do this. But one of the things about the monk agreement and the SSC agreement even more so is they were intended to last for a short period of time. The monk agreement had to last for 12 years plus ongoing payments, and the SSC agreement, if I remember, only lasted 7 or 8 years. So one of the things that made that agreement work in Malibu and possibly in Santa Monica was on the monk side that 12 years, if it wasn't quite the right way to split the money, if that was going to create problems, we could kind of hold our breath, get to the 12-year point, and move on. But 50 years is not a time frame that we can have an agreement that doesn't line up right. And so what I mean by that, because I saw confusion on your face, what I mean is that the agreement has got to be an agreement so that for the first year of operating both districts, they move forward more or less the same way they had in the year before the separation, that the resources are there to keep the programs that are there running, right? And I think that has to be the basis of this agreement, and that necessarily involves looking at costs. It necessarily involves, I think, I won't say that. What I will say is the principle needs to be that the resources that are in place before the separation can continue to be paid for after the separation. And that, I think, is what we're asking the consultant, presumably SSC, to come back with. Right? Is that what we're saying? Yeah. Okay, good. So then the third thing, John, I want to make sure I got 4 yeahs here. I guess I'm the fourth yeah. I'll say yeah. John, you good with that?
I'm straight, yeah.
Okay. Does that mean yes, no, or I'm abstaining from this?
No, you know that I'm fair.
Okay.
We're not voting.
No, but I want to make, right? So the last time there were a lot of misunderstandings about what we said, and you know I have this as a general thing with all our deliberation, is I'm trying to make sure that everybody, mostly including ourselves, are clear on what we're saying. So that's piece number 2. Piece number 3 is, as has already been talked about, the monk reviewed 5 different aspects of this. And we've only ever we've gotten 2 monk reports since the completion of their report. And there are 5 aspects to that report. I would like to say that we have accepted the other 4, and that the one we're working on is number 1 with regard to revenues. If we don't say that, then I know 6 heads that will explode tonight. So my suggestion is we agree that we accept the recommendations of the monk report, except as pertains to point 1 revenues, and we include that in the proposal that we're going to hear back on February 15th. Well, hang on.
I will say, in terms of giving direction to SSC to look at all that, I think I already had said that in the sense that they need to look at, all I want to do is make sure that that all works.
Okay.
You know, but that it has to be included, because obviously we don't have a full package without all of those aspects.
So I'm not talking about the details. I'm just saying the substantial recommendations that we don't change those recommendations, not the details of it, that we need to figure out ways to implement that. But they talk about divisions of assets. It says what property in Malibu will be Malibu's, what property in Santa Monica will be Santa Monica's. We do not want to revisit whether Malibu has the right to rentals from Santa Monica hotels and all that stuff. And I just cannot imagine starting over from scratch there. So.
No. I would agree we would never start over from scratch. But what I can't fully anticipate, because, and I hope there's nothing to look at, but when they detail or flesh out the concept of shared allocation and kind of, I suppose, if you're talking about over a long period of time, which we are, what revenues that we don't even have in place or foresee, where they fit and all that. I only want to make sure that as we'll have to have some mechanism for addressing those, and that they don't then cause any necessary changes in those other 4 which I'm certainly not suggesting they will. I just, I can't say off the top, I can't sit here and sign off on a dotted line.
So how about it? Yeah, but that we can cleave to the remaining four so long as there's no substantial, that there would be no substantial change to those recommendations. Obviously, we have to look at the revenues and blah, blah,
that's all
blah.
I'm saying. I'm
Okay.
just being careful because I just don't.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely agreed. We just don't, so let's see, that's that. Oh, so one other thing that I think we talked about a little bit but didn't come up, but one of the other things that came up in Dr. Drotti's report that I wholeheartedly support for all the reasons, for making sure that this process continues forward, for making sure that Dr. Drotti can be effective, for making sure that the issues that the Malibu community and the Santa Monica community want to be addressed. I would also like the board to give guidance to Dr. Drotti to go ahead with the Malibu, to get a Malibu administrator out there to begin to coalesce direct support for the Malibu community with somebody who's on site in that district. Yeah?
I don't know what exactly that means. So I think that'll have to be, I mean, if you mean a superintendent?
Yes.
I don't see that, honestly. I don't think that we can operate that way.
Well, the superintendent would report to Dr. Drotti. He would have no obligations to the Malibu community. He'd be an employee of Dr. Drotti who would be responsible for Malibu for Dr. Drotti. That's what I'm asking.
But what would that person be doing?
They would be taking direct responsibility for the 4 schools of Malibu and the support thereof.
Can we say it this way then? Can we say it this way, that I look into a reorg that allows for an administrator to oversee areas, and whatever we call it, we can discuss that later, but just a reorg to be able to have more of a presence there. Maybe that's the language used for now. For now, we can discuss. We can discuss it
that's fine.
later on.
I'm not trying to tie your hands to a title or a whatever, but I think, yes, enough said. That's fine. So with regard to the charter that several of you have mentioned, like with Plan A and Plan B, I have no objection to trying to find new ways to do things. I would not want, and the very first thing, and I've said this to some of you before, none of us know what that would look like. So we're just saying the word charter thinking that magically something might work there, but and not only do I not know what would work, I affirmatively have looked at things and I don't know of anything that would work. In other words, everything I do know would not work. But I'm all in favor of looking into that so long as that does not interfere with this timeline or this commitment to all these other things. And should we magically find the perfect solution, then yay us. But I wouldn't take resources or time or energy away from this main through line to do that. But I'm always in favor of exploring what could possibly be a good idea. Okay, so I think that's all I have to say. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I mean, it's not the best way of doing business, but it's late. We're going through a lot of things and thinking about stuff. So one thing that just came to me is when we split the 2 districts, if I recall properly, there are some increased costs from that split. So when we talk about revenues being in place today will be, resources in place today will be resources in place on day 1. How does that, see, this is what I mean by the SSC stuff and getting answers. How does the increased cost once we do split reflect in that? And again, we don't have to decide this now, but that's something that just pops in 10 minutes after you asked me what I thought.
Sure. I think that's a different order of magnitude of a question than are we using a revenue model or are we using a keep the services the way they were model. I think a revenue model would drive us into the gutter very quickly. I think
how exactly you account for that within this process. Oh, that actually reminds me of one thing I was going to say. So how exactly that fits into the formula is something that people who have more time and quiet space and capability than we do up here right now will figure out and bring back to us. That would be my suggestion anyway. On that note, one thing I would suggest is when Dr. Drotti pursues this, I would strongly suggest that he ask the Malibu City Council to appoint somebody to be a consultant. Again, I'm not trying to create an authority relationship, but somebody who could represent the City Council with regard to helping to flesh that out and provide a sounding board as those things move forward, so you can feel comfortable that there's some dialogue there.
Are you talking about in terms of just organizational structure or
somebody that you could talk to that could be involved in the process of creating this formula and give feedback and give ideas and whatever? Huh? No. I'm talking about, I'm saying, so we're going to charge you with finding a formula that works for 50 years. And I'm saying that I think it would be helpful to all of us that there would be somebody from Malibu who has some standing, meaning they're appointed by the Malibu City Council, to be a consultant to you, an advisor, whatever you want to call it, with no authority. I'm not saying he or she can say yes or no. I'm just saying you want to have somebody you can go to and who would be involved in the process to give you reflection and say, what about this, what about that? I think that would make the process smoother.
I hesitate to suggest this, but and then I'll do the repeats of people. Maybe there's a better person to do that than you, but to me, you understand the educational needs and the structure better than somebody we're going to pick out of the air. So I'm wondering what it is you think. I mean, I'm just saying, in terms of the person it should be, I just don't know.
I'm thinking it should be Manel, because he's better at this than I am, and he's got way more time than I do. I mean, look, this is meant to be a revision to the system, and whether it's me, Manel, however, I'm certainly available to participate in that, but he's way smarter than I am.
My
so
suggestion is really, then, really what you mean is, as he has questions that should be run by somebody, there should be, it could be both of you. I mean, it doesn't, does not have to be rigid in that sense. Right. He's not hiring one of you.
No, but my goal was to give whoever that was some standing, because then the other problem would be, well, Ben talked to some random person, and how did that help? So I'm trying to create some order to the process as well.
So you're talking about some kind of voice that I can talk to. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Is that?
Oh. You have the 3 members of the month that were representing Malibu that you could always use this, that you could reference to, or ask them to. No?
Currently, there's only 2, and I'm not in. I mean, that's possible. They could just be reappointed, but I mean, the monk is disbanded at this point. So, I mean, that's fine. I don't have any issue with that.
I think what Lori's saying, I'm not sure if this is what she's saying. The reason why you are an attractive person for this is that a lot of this process is taking place, and unfortunately, and well, I'll say it anyway, Malibu does not have its own school board. It has a city council that is acting in lieu. And to get somebody with, you are an elected member to tend after the education of 11,000 people. I want an education person in there, but I want Ben to make that decision. But so we agree that there needs to be somebody there. I'm just saying I'd like somebody who understands the education of the children.
Oscar? Yeah, I support where you're going with this. I mean, Malibu is going to need sort of, how would you say, practice, in governing public schools. I mean, for lack of a better term, right? I mean, it's in our interest to start developing the infrastructure, even if it's small steps. So it might be, but I'm also really concerned with, what impact that might have on the budget. The city of Malibu, I mean, we had all city council members. We have a city council member here. But we know that there's a lot of support on the city council in the city of Malibu. And maybe if our superintendent has a discussion with the leadership there, that they might find a way to work that out, to provide some resources, so that whether it's there are various consultants throughout the state of California, in Southern California, there's a lot of people that the city of Malibu might engage to provide some support to Dr. Girardi and to do the things that you're asking needs to be done. So it's just one suggestion. But instead of us thinking like, man, it's going to now there's more money, maybe the city of Malibu says, you know what, the city council in Malibu says we want a partner to make that happen. But we don't know until Dr. Girardi meets with them on that.
So I just want to make sure it's clear. That conversation will be in an effort to structure an organizational structure for MUSD district. Is that what we're talking about here?
If we're talking about what I was saying, no. What I'm talking about is the creation of this formula to last 50 years is going to be, I would say, the critical piece of whether we succeed in this. So my suggestion is that I would like to make sure there are resources available to school services, to the people who are creating this formula, that can represent Malibu in a way that has standing. I'm not asking for veto power or any of those things, just somebody who can be talked to, or some group of people. It could be Manal and I, it could be Manal, Laura and I, it could be who knows. But that are available to consult on that and to wrestle with this, so that when something comes to the board, it is baked through a SMMUSD process and a Malibu process, so that to the extent that we say this makes sense, it doesn't break down because it hasn't been vetted in both communities.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with you guys being resources and all of that, but I just think you need to think about this. We're asking school services to develop this. They're developing something that is presumably going to serve all of us. They're not working for Santa Monica, and the way you just set it up, it's as if they represent Santa Monica, and so I'm trying to get away from that. I am not suggesting that they shouldn't be able to and the bench should be sort of in the middle of that.
Let me restate this. I know it was very clear when I went and met with both groups. They said, look, the ball's in the court of the Santa Monica. Come forward with some things Santa Monica boards are willing to live with. I guess I don't want to get trapped in the loop of the monk, going back and forth, trying to do something. At this point, the ball is in the court of the SMMUSD board. I'm going to bring something forward that says, are you guys willing to live with this? And these are the parameters, these are the risks, and this, are we good with this? And we vote, because I'm afraid if I go into that piece there, I'm going to be stuck in that loop, trying to go back and forth again. And if that happens, we need an extension from February 15th, because that's not going to. And this is us. Hey, work this out to 50 years. Give me all the details. Let me educate the board between now and February 15th, so that way we can have a vote on February 15th. Or a discussion.
Yeah, Richard, go ahead.
So a couple of things that I'd like to share. I'm going to try to thread the needle if I can here, because it's difficult. I'd hoped that it would be an easy one, right, to get to 4, if not more, like you said, a unanimous, at least unanimous in direction. That's all we're doing tonight, right, is giving direction. Unanimous direction. And quickly we fall into the weeds, which they're good weeds to be in because they're most excellent questions. But then I also know, to use one of your favorite sayings, that, and I have heard it from our peers in Malibu too, that sometimes they feel like the old Peanuts cartoon where it's Lucy holds the football and Charlie Brown runs up to the football and the football gets pulled away. This is something you've said to me, in the sense of characterizing. And
I understand that. I think public perceptions absolutely do matter. I really think they matter. And so it's not lost on me that members of the community and Malibu particularly feel as if we have deliberated for quite a long time and that there have been these ups and downs. And so some of us, I think it's important for the public to know that, we're not allowed to have meetings outside of these meetings other than with 3 of us, or we violate the Brown Act. And so meetings like these are supposed to be moments where we get to check the pulse or the temperature of our peers and see what one or more than one of us is willing to do. And so what I was trying to attempt was to take what I thought we'd already agreed to, this measure of 50 years, and say, in principle, that we're going to move forward with this and that we're going to give direction to our superintendent to make this happen. And I heard somebody say here on the dais it's a serious attempt. I feel it has to be more than serious. I'm just speaking for myself. It has to be something that is a bit more than serious. It needs to be, and I've thought about a lot of different ways to kind of explain this or think about it for myself. And this might not be the best way to characterize it, but I think about the Brexit vote that took place in England. And there was a particular decision that was made by the people to say, okay, we're going to separate. And then it's the devil in the details, most certainly. And I suspect that that's going to be we know it's an elongated process to delve into those details and to find the appropriate kind of path, right, to blaze a certain trail out of that. And I don't support the Brexit, by the way. Not that I have a vote or a say, right? So I'm just trying to think about, as one member of the board who wants to demonstrate that I believe in the unification. I believe in the separation of the school district. But then I also hear all of my peers who said we've got to make sure that we address every kid's needs. I think, Oscar, you said it really nicely tonight. I watched Dr. Dradi do this thing with his the hand motion. I'm gonna parrot you here, and the attractiveness of a 50-year plan is that I think it wins 4 votes on this board. That's attractive, and I think that it then ties us in the low moments as well as the high moments. So Dr. Dradi says that what we're going to do is we're going to ensure that as the tide rises, we're going to be together. And if there's a downturn, and we're going to be there as well. So for the foreseeable period, right? I don't think I'll be here in 50 years, but there's maybe I will be. But there's this idea that we can find that common unifying place where we can respect our peers in Malibu who want self-determination, who want to be able to kind of put their own stamp, if you will, on the public schools. And all of us know that public schools are like the key component of American democracy, not the key, one of the keys. Forgive me for overstating that. But I'm really nervous that if we, again, say that we're going to start asking all of these other questions. So, for example, Member Keene, I can tell you what Malibu is going to say to charters because I've asked, all right? I have been one member of this board, and I know you have been too, to go on and ask questions, and it's no, we're not interested in charters. Now, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't, again, at the 11th hour, like we did, direct Dr. Dradi a week or so ago, to go in and ask about A, but I suspect we know the answer of what that's going to be. So I guess what I'm asking is for help from my peers. How do we go from being serious and saying that we're going to have a first read on the 15th, because this is what Ralph suggested, which I'm not supportive of, a first read. I'm talking about a hard vote by the 15th, to where I'm going to belly up and I'm going to cast a vote. And agreed. So the idea that I suggested, and I will say, because now we're in a public setting, I can say this. So I had a conversation with Dr. Dradi, and I said, what do you think? And, he talks to one board member. And I said, do you think that you could get school services to do this kind of work in this amount of time? And could we have something before us? And he'll answer that question. But I read it as the answer was yes, that we'd be able to address this. Because we know that Malibu is hesitant. Malibu is hesitant in not wanting to pull the petition. And we know that, we all have the the scenario, how it unfolds when that petition, if there is standing, which will be determined, and then once that first hearing takes place, it's all in the rule book, right? You're going to know exactly the number of days. And I don't like playing chicken, right? I've heard Malibu say, by all means necessary, we're going to win this, and we're going to go forward with this petition. There are others who say we don't want to do that. That's not the best way to do this, because we are trying to demonstrate the agape love and the commitment to one another. And I just feel like there's a game of chicken happening, and I don't want that. So I'm hoping that Dr. Drotti can take the spirit, well, his spirit, and work with folks. If Dr. Drotti says to us, I need to hire somebody to help me get to this place, school services, or I have to bring on somebody else to help me manage this while I'm also managing the rest of the district, I have great confidence Dr. Drotti is going to be able to do this. But my suggestion tonight was to kind of be this clear, definitive direction, say, Dr. Drotti, make this happen. And by February 15th, can you present to us a make it happen 50-year revenue share? We're up, we're low together, and we're off to the races. Malibu is a unified district. I need help to trying to kind of thread that needle. I hope I made sense.
John? Just to respond quickly to you, because we finally get to do the business of the district in public. I like your Brexit analogy, because I remember that vote and being stunned that it actually happened. It was the first of the stunning votes that we saw in a couple of years. And I remember the next day when there was a lot of regret because, oh, we didn't know that was a part of it. We didn't know this was a part of it. So to me, I'm just, even if it takes an extra 2 weeks, even if that meeting that Ben had led to nothing, I feel better that at least the governance we provided was sound. The thing about the charter, at least exploring the charter while we're pursuing Plan B as our first choice, is A, what if the charter means something that we don't realize it means? What if it actually benefits in a way that we never imagined possible? That's one thing. The second thing, what if LACO and the state say no? We're going to need a Plan D, C, whatever letter we're up to. I mean, so it's like I think us putting that work in now doesn't keep us from following B if B works. But at least it's something that gives us a backstop.
And so, can I piggyback on that and say that I would say A plus B equals C. I think it has to be C. But I think it's worth exploring for the reasons that John said, and because it just seems to me that I get that at first blush people go, no, we don't want that. We want to be MUSD, and that's the only answer. It couldn't be MU, I don't know what it would be, CP. But I think that the virtues is, now that we're talking about shared allocation, I think in my conceptual sense of a charter pathway, that's in effect how it would work. And the benefits of, I think the reason to explore it is that it has the obvious benefits of you don't have to go through LACO, you don't have to go through the legislature, you don't have to have a vote of the people. But to Craig's earlier point, I agree with you because I've explored it a little too. I think we'd be making up our own model because one doesn't exactly exist of what I think we're kind of talking about. I mean, like the Palisades, I mean, Craig and I have talked about this before. The Palisades schools actually all operate, or they have contracts all as, I don't want to say independent, they're independent of each other. The elementary schools, the middle school, the high school, they're not a pathway. They each have their own separate charter, and that's not what, that doesn't help anybody. That doesn't solve this. That doesn't do anything. So we would be creating our own novel thing, but it does have a lot of benefits to it. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I think it's worth exploring. I'm not pushing it. If we can work Plan D, that's great. It's just a sort of, it has other benefits, and as John says, we don't have control of everything, and we don't know that. And I'm only wanting to understand the Brexit analogy in the sense that I thought I knew what you meant, and then I didn't, and then for me, it means what John just said, which is, and that's why I'm not meaning to hedge, but I am saying I think it would be silly to say
this date, and then if we needed 2 more weeks, because we want to understand the full implications or certain details had to be worked out, we just vote anyway. This is 50 years. This is, I mean, assuming we can come up with something, this is, I mean.
I said, because as you said, you didn't understand it, so.
I didn't say you said anything wrong. I just wasn't sure of what you were.
Of course, 2 weeks. I wasn't saying, you know, that if someone said we need 2 more weeks, I would never, I'm not rigid. I don't think anyone's ever called me rigid. But the thing is that with Brexit, I think our school district has done, Monk has done probably more research into our separating than what was done with Brexit. That's probably not true, but it does feel like that. Right. So I think we know a lot. I'm just saying, and this is what I said I really need help with. How do we get to be just a bit more than just serious? So I understand that it might be more time. I get that, but how do you convey a message that we're for real this time? You know what I mean? That this is.
Okay. I know that people feel this way, but I do resent the implication that we weren't for real the last time. We were for real. We set up this committee. We never said, and there is a real misunderstanding, I think. We never said, here, you go solve it, and whatever you say, we're adopting. That would be an abrogation of our responsibilities. And if people understood it that way, that's our fault. And I'll take partial responsibility for that, but that's not what was intended. We also never thought, we've been over this before, we never thought it was going to take as long as it took. We thought they were going to go out there and, I think we had a 6-month time frame on it, maybe it was less. There are a lot of things that didn't go the way we really put them out there. I think that's, crying over spilt milk. I don't want to go back there, but I just do want to clarify that it's not that we weren't serious then, and that we, this is like Brexit in the sense that it's the results of it we're going to have to live with for a long time and forever, and we want to get it right. And there's nothing wrong with that. Rather than, I don't feel badly about that, and I don't think I'm not serious when I say I'm serious. And maybe the thing to say to our superintendent is, the goal is February 15th. If you could have people do it faster, that would be great. But if it doesn't work, we're making a serious commitment, but we're not going to do something stupid and sign on to something when the details aren't fully fleshed out. That's all. Ralph.
Thank you. And I agree with most of what's been said. So let me sort of go back now. Because we can't, what we can do tonight is to give direction to the superintendent to look into an issue and bring back to us, something to look at. And I trust that he will take the time that's necessary to do that in the proper fashion. We'd say we think it can be done by a certain date, that's great. But if it takes, 30 days longer, the people, that we're going to hire to work with, it should take what it's going to take for the biggest decision, this huge decision that has to be made, that impacts the lives of every student, for if it's a 50-year period. And I think it's irresponsible, to say, to get into the same thing that Laura was just talking about, say, well, you said on November 16th that you would support, the 50-year plan when it came back. I don't see how, we don't know what that plan is. How can you can say, I will approve it, but I don't know what that plan is. I don't know, I just don't know the facts and figures of it and whether it's the right thing to do. And in fact, if there is, once you look at it, and I think we have to go back and understand to the best we can what that impact is. I think the operational plan that's been has been used for Malibu is from the Westhead report from 2015. I think you got to start somewhere to understand what costs are. Is that still, what is it, how's it going to operate? I've read it many times, yes. So and getting, and there are issues, that we haven't talked about tonight. So I think school services revenue sharing formula indicated that Malibu would have to pass a partial tax again. So those kinds of things we have to know, and they, again, have to be out there. So it's just unfair to say, that something's going to come back and we're automatic, that it's what we're going to approve. It's not, we can't do that. It's illegal for us to do that. You can't say today you will approve something that we haven't looked at, when it comes back. It would be irresponsible to do that. In terms of, I want to go back to two things. I'm sorry if there are, we do really try really hard to have equity of program, equity of facilities, maintenance and the like. So, and I know the superintendent understands that, and our staff understands it, and they're understanding it, more and more. We need to do everything we can to take care of the issues that there are in Malibu schools, as we do in Santa Monica schools, and to make sure that they're all are in the condition they need to be to educate our kids. I don't know why you would shake your head. I'm committing myself to ensuring that the superintendent looks at that. He can make the decision about what that means in terms of any changes in organization and structure that need to be made. It's not about prepping for what is coming in terms of having, a different form of governance. At this point, we're not there. And for better or worse, it will be this year, then another year, and I don't know, if it's beyond that. Today, we're one district, and we are going to be till then, so it's our responsibility for all the schools in our community. As I don't think Lori said, we all just came from a couple of hours of a session where we went from table to table to hear what our schools are doing, throughout the district with the principals and teacher leaders and others, to hear how they're all addressing the same issues in their schools. About engagement, about increasing education, the value of education and the achievement of our kids in every school. They're all asking the same questions and coming up with what the responses should be given who the students are in those schools. We talk more about our differences than we do about our commonalities, because of this issue. And I'd really like us, as we move forward, even if we're moving, forward to be two different districts, we're still all, the same, and we have to acknowledge that. It's not about, there's some, anyway. So I don't think we can say bring it back and that's what we'll approve. We're going to get something to come back that we're all going to look at and understand better. I think it's a superintendent's job. I think part of the, an issue with the Monk was this go back and forth? I want the professionals to look at it. I think, and I don't think, Craig or Manel, some of the Malibu that Dr. Drive should go to and say, well, what do you think about this? Is this something that's going to work, that's going to make everybody happy? Let the superintendent, with the people we're going to work with, develop a plan that we're all going to look at and see if it's the right plan, maybe, for better or worse, ask other questions, and determine if this is the way to get to continue to educate all our kids and to have governance that is different in the two communities, but not at the expense, of educating. So we've got a transition period here where we're still together for whatever that time period is, and we shouldn't talk at this point about how long it is because we don't know until we do more research and work together and solve problems and educate other kids, and then look at what comes back to us from the professionals, because this is a huge decision we're going to make, and we have to be able to understand what the impact is in both communities, how it affects program, how it affects governance, how it affects facilities. I need to see the data and the plan before moving ahead. So am I with everybody else to move this forward, to look at it? Absolutely. But I can't say how I'm going to vote on anything that's on the February 15th agenda tonight.
I think actually we've beaten this into the ground, and I think Dr. Drive wants to report what he hears, and I think we could.
Everybody's tired. The more we have conversations, the more I'm going to lose my focus of what I need to do. So I got. Let me summarize what I think I heard. So I heard very clearly that I've been directed to explore a revenue share for 50 years. In the meantime, have a conversation with City Council about pulling the petition. If they delaying the petition, if there's no appetite for that, then I'll come back on December 14th meeting, possibly with a vote, a vote to oppose it, an action item to oppose for a vote. I'm not going to say oppose. You guys have to, but an action item to take a position on that. The goal is to have something to you by a first read by February 14th. Just note that the conversation will be happening in our smaller meetings throughout, so that way that 14th will not be, it shouldn't be a surprise, if I can help it. In the meantime, I'm still going to be, for my purposes, I'm still going to look at possibly reorganizing anyway to ensure that I have presence in all the different regions of the district. If that means a position in Malibu, I'll be considering that. And I don't think that's a board decision. That's real more or less me saying I need presence out there or whatnot. So that's going to happen anyway, regardless if all this happens or doesn't happen. But I do want to be clear, and I said this to the City Council and Malibu folks. If a decision is made this year, this is the board's opinion. The board's opinion. I want to make sure the whole community understands that, because I don't want to be stuck with people saying we all did a split if the state decides to say they're going to turn it down. There's a chance that they're going to take our opinion, the board's opinion, and reject it, because there's all kinds of politics around this whole this situation here. And there's a case that separation may not occur. There's a case that separation may not occur. In that sense, we still got to live together. We still got to live together. And I hope that people at least heard here that people are committed at least around here, committed to separation if we find the right situation. And I've got to operate as if right now, whether it happens or doesn't happen, and to be able to come back together. And sometimes you can, if you're friends, relatives, or one, you can beat each other up to where there's no coming back, and we need to avoid being there. Because in case we got to live together still, we have to still do that. And so is my recollection correct?
It is, but I'd add one piece to honor Member Keene and others. If you're going to reach out to presumably the same entities that you reached out to over the last two, you had two meetings, right? You met with you met with MANTS and the MSLC. Forgive me, and then the council. And so I think Member Keene has asked that as you make that ask of the council to delay, it's not even really to delay the petition, but rather to see if they would, well, I guess it's that first hearing, if they would request the first hearing come after we have a chance to look at but then Member Keene's asking to ask about charters, and I think that there was consensus that it doesn't hurt to ask and talk about that. And I think Lori's comment about I think that no one should get confused. We are not introducing a new Plan C tonight, but like you just said, if unification doesn't happen because LACO says no or the state says no, I think that there's potential will that we would still move in an area that could be the C, is what you were saying, the charter. So you have to be having these conversations at the same time. I think that's what Member Keene and President Lieberman were saying, at least the spirit of it.
Yeah, there's only one thing I'm concerned about, and that's the part about the how we're framing the LACO, the ask of the Malibu City Council, as well as the direction to Dr. Drotti. Because I think that if he finds out, we don't have another board meeting for a month. And so if he finds out, next week, that there is no appetite, as you put it, for putting that on hold, I want him to be in a position to hire the right people, and I think we need a lawyer no matter what we do with all of this, to start advising us about all of these issues. And I think he'll need more than a lawyer, a consultant write the opposition, which, I'm not saying I want to go there, but I'm being prudent and being responsible. We have to be prepared to go there. And we have to, saying we're going to wait a month, I don't think that he should wait a month to start preparing if the answer is no, there's no appetite. So I guess I'm saying I think we should give him direction to start looking at those things now.
Okay.
Dr. Dadegina, yeah, I think yes.
Okay, great. Terrific.
Madam President, if I move to table item 5A. I withdraw that, Madam President.
It's a new requirement associated with the accountability that staff has to report at an open board meeting before it's in first.
Oh my God, we have more.
Yeah.
All right, so we need to do that item. But we lost our staff who's going to. All right, are we ready? Okay.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Tonight I need to present, this is a public hearing, or not a public hearing, excuse me, a public presentation of the 4 local indicators that would appear on the California School Dashboard. It's required by the state and will be an annual reporting out of the local indicators. The purpose of this presentation, very briefly, is just to explain again the California School Dashboard, which is part of the state's accountability measures, which includes both the state indicators, which are measured data that the state collects through the CalPADS data collection system and our CASP assessment system, as well as our local indicators, which are locally reported at the district level, not at the site level. And to ensure that these are approved, they have to be presented at a local governing board meeting and shared out on the dashboard. It's required by the legislation that created the local control funding formula. Just a reminder, the purpose of the dashboard is currently showing the spring 2017 data. It should be updated before the end of November. And the purpose is for local education agencies, school districts, and schools to report out on various student groups on a set of state and local measures, the 8 priority areas of the LCFF, and to identify strengths and weaknesses and areas of need of improvement for school districts and schools. If you recall, this is what the dashboard looks like. It's got our colored pie charts that reflect where we stand both in the status in a given year and the change over time in student performance in the various areas. So the state measures eventually will include chronic absenteeism. That'll be reported out next year. Our suspension rate, which is reported out. Our progress to our English learners. Our graduation rate. New this fall will be a college and career indicator, which is a composite score that includes A through G rate, CASP scores in 11th grade, dual enrollment courses, CTE completed courses, and a variety of other measures. And then finally, our performance on the CAST, English Language Arts, and math. The local indicators are those areas which we cannot measure by data that's collected yet.
For information, can you send us the previous item in some, online? We can't read it. It's so small. When we try to blow it up, it's all fuzzy.
Would you like the access to the actual dashboard?
That would be great.
It's a lot more interactive.
And maybe I have it, but don't know how to get there.
I'd be happy
Thank
to
you.
send that to you. So the local indicators, these are among the priority areas that aren't readily measured by testing or other measures. These include basic services, the implementation of state academic standards, parent engagement, and school climate. And school climate as it reflects students' experience in the schools. And as I said earlier, they apply only to the districts, not to the schools themselves. So it's an interesting measure. We measure with one of three marks. We either receive, and this is all self-collected, self-reported, so we give ourselves a met, a not met, or a not met for 2 years based on whether we, annually measure progress. And some of these things are de facto how you measure the progress. Others have two options. Then if we report it out at a regularly scheduled governing board meeting, which I'm doing tonight, and then finally that we report the results out to stakeholders by posting this on the dashboard. So that's the three requirements. That's essentially what we're in the process of doing now. So in terms of basic services, the first, this boils down to three primary measures, whether we have appropriately assigned teachers in all our classrooms, and this includes both having the correct credential if you're a math teacher or teaching a math class, you have a math credential, but also that you have the appropriate credential to teach English learners. That we have access to curriculum-aligned instructional materials for all students. That's the Williams instructional materials that we report out every October. And then finally, the safe, clean, and functional school facilities that we measure using the Facilities Improvement Tool, the FIT. So we measure this by basically saying, do we meet 100% of these in all, or do our schools all receive a high enough score on the FIT to mark us as having met? For this year, we have to report out, unfortunately, that we are a not met standard for two areas. The first, there were 18, this is reporting out, by the way, it's live data, so this is 16-17 data. Last year we had 18 teachers who did not have their English learner credential to be able to teach English learners. The state requires that whether or not you have English learners in your classroom, you have to have this certificate, either the CLAD or SEDI certificate. We've reduced that number, and we actually just went through an audit, a state audit for our EL program. And it was a finding, it was the only finding, that we still have some teachers, and we have a plan in place so that all teachers by the end of this year will either have their emergency credential or will have a plan in place to get their CLAD taken care of. We do report out in terms of access to instructional materials. That's a 100% rate. All students have access to their core instructional materials, both at home and at school. And then we've had two, at 16-17, we had two schools that did not meet the higher standards for the FIT. They had fair marks, and I just noted that both of those schools, it was Webster and Olympic, both of those schools are undergoing major renovations currently. So we would expect that they will have a different standing for next year's. The second mark is for the implementation of state academic standards, and there are two options for this. One was whether to use your own measure. We actually have this as part of our LCAP. One of the goals in our LCAP was to measure the use of the implementation of state academic standards based on the development of curriculum guides in all the different content areas. And so we chose option one, so all that's required is a narrative summary of how we're doing. In this case, we again are not met. And in this case, we do meet. We have developed ELA and math curriculum guides. In fact, we met today to discuss the math curriculum guides for secondary. It's kind of an ongoing process. The reason we don't meet it is because in the LCAP, we specifically said that we'd have our English language development standards incorporated in both the math and ELA, and that was not completed last year. So the process it's still in process right now, but they were not included last year. So by that standard, we are reporting out that we're not meeting on that. The third standard is parent engagement, or third priority area, I should say. And the standard for this is that we annually measure progress in seeking input from parents in decision making and promoting parental participation in programs. Again, we had two options here. In this case, we do administer surveys. In fact, I'm going to plug our school climate survey that's currently out among parents, and that's one of the ways in which we measure it. Last year, we implemented for the first time, a family and community engagement survey. It's a nationally benchmarked survey, so we can compare how we're doing compared to other districts. And then to meet this standard, we have to report out the key findings, why we chose this survey, and the key findings are related to two areas: one, seeking input, and two, promoting parental participation. So in this regard, we do meet the standard. As I said, we administered for the first time the Family and School Partnership Survey by K-12 Insight. We had a 13% response rate, so 943 respondents out of 7,178 surveys mailed out. And overall, 70% of the respondents said that they are satisfied with opportunities to be involved with their child's education. Less than half said they have been asked to share their opinions about what classes or programs their child should take or participate in. But a strong majority, 85%, said the child's school sees them as a partner in the educational process. 56% of participants feel they have a voice in shaping school policy. Final measure, school climate. As I said, this is related to students' experience. And again, we have an option here. And so in this case, we administer the California Healthy Kids Survey every year to students in grade 7, 9, and 11. This requires that we do one grade in every grade span. However, you only have to do it in alternate years. So we haven't typically done grade 5, which the Healthy Kids Survey has a grade 5 survey. And so we're going to administer that this year. So that'll be the alternating year for that. So in this case, we need to report out again what we found. And I included some prior year's data since we do. This isn't necessarily a baseline for us. We've been collecting this for quite a while. So as you can see, in terms of our count, we have a very high participation rate, with the exception of Olympic, which doesn't have quite the same participation rate. But as you can see, in terms of the percentage of students indicating that they perceive their school to be safe or very safe, this is one of the two factors they asked you to collect exclusively. You see we have a very high percentage of students who say they felt their schools are safe or very safe, and that's pretty consistent. There are some slight variations. It's not a cohort measure, though, so slight variations from year to year since 2015 to 2017. And then the percentage of students indicating they have a high level of school connectedness. And this is a very limited, in fact, the online portion of this is kind of frustrating. It's a text box. And the reality is the California Healthy Kids Survey report that we have is very robust. It's very interesting. We've looked at it extensively at the sites. The counselors and advisors looked at it recently. We did a deep dive into what the numbers mean. And so school connectedness is not one question. It's a series of questions. So there is a whole matrix of questions that you can drill down and find out what does school connectedness look like. For the purpose of this report, I only needed to report this number. In the text box, you can't actually put tables or anything, so I included a link to the survey itself. However, you can see you do see a decline in terms of school connectedness, and that's certainly something we want to keep an eye on. That's probably, to some extent, just the students as they move through schools feel less connected as a rule. We see that across all schools in California. But certainly when you start dipping below the 50% mark, I would say it's time to say, what are we doing? And I think when we talked to all our schools today during the SIPS SLT report, there's a lot of talk about student engagement and how to better engage our students, particularly the high school, Santa Monica High School, Malibu High School, are looking at a lot of survey data of their own and trying to determine how best to engage their students on campus. So that's the extent of my report. Any questions or clarifications?
And then just quickly, if you go back to that slide, I'm hesitant, when we make statements like, oh, those are very high percentages. I mean, what's the standard we're using? It's great something's 92, but when something's 72 or 50 or 62, we want all these numbers to be much higher, right? So, I mean, they're a measure of where we are. For
the purposes, and I would say yes, we are diving deep. For the purposes of this reporting,
we're reporting it out. What we actually do is then look at it during the LCAP District Consultation Committee. This is one of the measures we look at throughout, and we find out what's behind this. It's not just we're okay with it, but rather what kind of resources do we need to apply to this, and what are the kind of the root causes, and it's also what we're hearing the SLPs. They're really looking into it.
Right. I think often when you see data like this, it begs for more questions, and as we were discussing earlier, sometimes it's a matter of actually surveying the students to figure out where they are in terms of what they see in the curriculum, like what Malibu High School is doing in surveying the students at the end of each course and finding out how they feel about the courses and all that. I think when you see this, you dig deeper and ask more questions, and hopefully this directs us to do more things and figure out how we can better engage the students.
Okay, thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
and I'm so sorry you had to wait this late for I think we now have some public comments.
Members of the board, we have...
Sorry,
Oh, I
we
beg
have a
your
major
pardon.
action item. I didn't even, then, I beg yours. We have a resolution, number 1712, a National Native American and Alaska Native Heritage Month. We, I'm reading the wrong, oh my God, okay, I pulled out the hard copy, that's part of my problem. I've been tracking this on there, but, sorry. Yeah, I know, well, then I have the wrong ones. Okay, so let me go back here. This is my problem with Agenda Online here, sorry, guys. Okay, so, I apologize for that. We do have two information items, though. No, we don't. You're right, got the wrong thing too. This is a little on the information item. We have the revision of the AR 5141.52, which is the suicide prevention, which we talked about last meeting, and then item 7B, which is the SMMCTA Sunshine proposal to open negotiations with the district for the successor collective bargaining agreement. So I'm sorry for the confusion here. So that does take us to public comments now.
Thank you for that. Members of the board, we have 5 general public comments this evening, and our first speaker, I'll call them in, I'll just call them all in a particular order. It'll be Jennifer DeNicola first, then Stacy Cox, Nikki Koloff, and lastly, Kathy Feig. Did I say that right? Feig, forgive me. Jennifer DeNicola, you're first. Welcome. 3 minutes.
Hey guys, so we have a moral and ethical issue to discuss. If you violate the law or board policy, you must be held accountable. Whether this violation is because of ignorance or intention, you must still be held accountable. Each board member's moral compass are on the line here. And we're watching to see if you choose to play politics or you choose to be ethical. When you choose to take this office, you take an oath to uphold the law and the bylaws of SMMUSD. Maria violated this. She's lost the public trust and she's violated the law. The question now is, what will you all decide? Do the rules matter or only some of them? Think about that example you want to set for the kids. Do you want to teach them all that the rules matter, or that they can handpick which ones they want to follow, which ones they don't have to listen to? Today we face a critical crossroad. When your constituents look at you, don't you want them to think that you have a strong moral compass and that you're a shining example of a law-abiding public servant? If so, you have to hold yourself and the board you serve accountable to truth, integrity, and public confidence in the whole board, which means that you all need to be requesting that Maria resign or recuse herself until this investigation is completely over. No individual matters more than the integrity of the entire board and our entire district. As a member of the constituency, I'm asking that Maria resign. It teaches our students of the district that actions have consequences and that our public servants will own their mistakes and put the whole before one.
Thank you, Mr. Nicola. Our next speaker is Stacy Cox. Welcome, Ms. Cox. Is she here?
She's not here. She left.
Okay, thank you. Our Nikki Koloff. Welcome, Ms. Koloff.
Good evening. How long do we have in public comment? 3. Okay. My phone died, so I don't have. Are there timers anywhere? Are there timers anywhere?
That
we can see? No. Okay.
Sadly.
A couple topics. First, I want to remind everybody that we need to review the middle school math pathways again. And I submitted a request for data to Evan last week for a breakdown of our particular data sets. And I would expect to get that as a parent in the district so that we can analyze that and have an informed discussion about that sometime soon. Second, I missed the separation discussion because I was at another board meeting. But I support separation because I think that Malibu is a distraction for Santa Monica and too often used as a scapegoat. And I would love to have the opportunity to have Santa Monica be its own school district so we can focus and hold our leaders accountable and not have to drive to Malibu anymore and have low turnout because nobody can make it there to represent the interests of our kids. So with respect to the current events, though, and the recent allegations, they are, of course, disturbing. And I'm not going to make a demand about that this evening because we're in the investigation stage. Perhaps a recusal, permanent recusal during an investigation would maybe be appropriate. But I think for all of you, if one of the standards we heard in the paper is whether or not we read consent items because they're voluminous, we expect all of you to be reading your consent items. And if you can't do that, then you should all, whoever can't do that, should be stepping down. That's a minimum requirement to be doing your job up there. Second, conflicts of interest are important, and I appreciate that there was a statement made earlier that that's being investigated. It has to be a general investigation of all the conflicts that are potentially here for all of our board members, all of our staff, and all of the consultants that we hire with our taxpayer dollars. One of my topics that I've raised frequently is the Civic Center field. It has long bothered me that as a board, there has not been a public statement at a public meeting on behalf of our students for the Civic Center field in the last 12 years when the parents, maybe a letter was sent recently, but not at the meetings where all of the children from the district were rallying to fight for a field, okay? And then we have our students and our parents going to the meetings recently and then traveling all the way to Chula Vista to fight it at the Coastal Commission. Instead, we have 2 board members who financially benefit from SMC commenting in favor of SMC's Early Childhood Ed Center that effectively blocks the field. The field benefits the health and well-being of our students. It also benefits the district financially because it's a large piece of land right across from the high school. And I am really confused as to why that would be an appropriate choice for a board member to make. And I think all of those kinds of decisions need to be looked into, and recusals when folks are voting on items before them with organizations that they benefit financially from.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Kathy Feig. Welcome, Ms. Feig.
Mine's going to be short. I just want to also say that I believe that Maria should resign under the circumstances. From Malibu, I just don't know how we can trust this group of people. Like, I mean, it's one thing after another. It's just going to keep going. I mean, the whole thing about you spending $12 million for not our schools being rebuilt, that's $12 million that could have gone to our kids. It was a waste of money, and who knows what went on with that, with Pillsbury. why did you guys hire Pillsbury? Trust me, it's being looked into. So, you guys, it just, and it says volumes that this meeting is in Santa Monica and not Malibu. Like, I just got here. It's too hard to get to Santa Monica. It's 17 miles or more for people like me to get here. I have kids, and it's not right that we're a part of Santa Monica. They're two separate. They're so far apart in more ways than one. So I really think you guys need to reconsider. I mean, look at the money that is not going to the foundation. Malibu doesn't want to give money to the foundation. We don't trust you, and we never will. So why don't you just let it be? Get a divorce, and an amicable one, and we'll all be happy. And maybe we can work together as a separate, like maybe we could help fundraise for some of your schools because we're good at that. We'd be happy to. We want to help people. It's not like we're selfish. We just want to know where our money is going. And right now, we do not trust where it's going. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Pike. That concludes our general public speakers. I move we adjourn. Oh, forgive me.
I mean, sorry. I just want to point out that this Saturday, just to end on this note, I know we close in memory of Jen. This Saturday there's a memorial for Jen Poost, who was an English teacher at Samo. I'm disappointed that I'm not going to be able to be there, but I just wanted to share, I'm going to steal words from Lin-Manuel Miranda, who said, what is a legacy? A legacy is planting seeds in a garden that you never get to see. And I just want to say that Jen's garden is vast, and she will be missed.
Thank you for that. We are going to table closed session, and we can do it next at our next regular meeting. I think there was a motion to adjourn. Richard moved. Craig seconds. All those in favor? Aye, that's 6-0. Thank you.